Good morning. It's 6:02 from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Justin Hawkins. The Tennessee Titans made a couple moves yesterday. The Titans terminated the contracts of offensive guard Arlington Hambright and offensive tackle Isaiah Prince. Also, sometimes having the top pick can have its perks outside of the NFL draft. It means you have the first choice in the waiver wire. Yesterday, the Titans were awarded two players, outside linebacker Titus Leo and safety Mark Perry. In other NFL news, the Minnesota Vikings and edge rusher Andrew Van Ginkel reached an agreement on a contract extension on Tuesday for a one-year, $23 million extension. Van Ginkel is coming off his first Pro Bowl selection and a career-high 11.5 sacks last season. Today, join 3HL live from Geodis Park for Tennessee's Big Orange Caravan this afternoon from 3 to 6 p.m. Tune in to hear exclusive interview from Tennessee athletics such as head coaches Josh Heupel, Rick Barnes, Kim Caldwell, athletic director Danny White, and new voice of the Tennessee Vols, Mike Keith. Speaking of Rick Barnes, Tennessee basketball landed shooting guard Amari Abram yesterday in the transfer portal. Abram transferred out of Louisiana Tech and averaged 12.3 points, 4.4 rebounds, and 1.5 steals per game last season for the Bulldogs. The commitment came Monday after a visit to Knoxville, but the announcement became public yesterday. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you've got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Wednesday morning on RKW. Welcome in on a beautiful morning in the Music City. This is Ramon, Kayla, and Will, brewed by Scooters Coffee with locations in White House, Mount Juliet, Rivergate, Smyrna, and Brentwood. Download the Scooters Coffee mobile app today to order ahead and save $2 off your first mobile order. Ramon on IR this morning. He is not with us. Kayla Anderson and Will Bowling. Justin Hawkins is our producer. We are setting expectations this morning, both here in Nashville and in Knoxville. Coming up in 15 minutes, how much of your standards change for Tennessee football, considering the transfer portal exodus that they've had over the last couple of weeks? We'll talk expectations for Cam Ward based on what Vegas thinks he's going to do this year. Titans Radio's Rhett Bryan at 8 o'clock. He'll join us for 45 minutes this morning. And the VOTV, voice of the Vols, Mike Keith, joins us at 9:20 this morning on Wednesday, April the 30th. Kayla, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, I'm excited to have Mike Keith on the show today, the VOTV.
That's right.
Going to join us, taking some time out of his busy day because the Big Orange Caravan, like y'all mentioned, is coming into town today. So that will be fun to catch up with all of them. I was talking to you, Will, when you walked in this morning, because we all have our morning routines, right?
We do.
And one of my morning routines this year had been to incorporate green juice. Now, whatever that might be, maybe it's the powder kind, and there's different brands and such. I had been on one brand for a little bit, Will, and it was something that I could handle, right? I could stir it up, put it down, and I'm good to go.
Yep.
So I decided to get fancy, and I decided to go to a certain brand. I won't mention it. Maybe a little
Don't
bit.
put anybody on blast this morning before
won't put
7 a.m.
anybody on blast because I do like some of their other products, Will. But I was like, let's try this out because it seems a little more base. And so I get it in the mail. I'm super excited to try it this morning. I look at the instructions. You can have it hot and you can have it cold.
Okay.
And for this time of the morning when I'm in a hurry, I got to do cold. So do the whole making of it, stir it around with my little electric stir, pop in the car. I take my first drink as I'm pulling out. And Will, it was the most potent, like I gagged.
Did you just spew it everywhere?
It was like I rolled down the window. And then
Ugh.
I realized on my drive in, like, I can't waste this though. Like, this was not cheap for this little bag.
Okay.
And so I tried to keep drinking it. And it just wasn't happening. I felt at one point I needed to pull over and, but
not a good way to start the morning.
it wasn't. So it kept down. We're all good. But now I'm contemplating even like going back to that. But what I think I'll do is I'll just turn it into like a hot tea.
There you go.
Right?
Dang.
At night. So just the grass is not always literally greener on the other
yeah,
side.
exactly. It always is tough. I've done, back when I could not cook at all, I did a lot of those like delivery service things where you just get sent frozen food or like
Yes.
sent things like that. And it gets you because you have to invest in bulk. Like you have to invest in multiple of them because it is not advantageous to you to just get like 2 or 3 meals just to like try it out or something, or like drinks or things like that.
Right.
So you've got to know that you like some of these things before you make a commitment to it. I've even done like an overnight oats service.
Yeah.
Where I got that delivered. I think when I moved last summer, I threw away boxes of that stuff.
I remember you talking
boxes
about
of like,
it.
I just did not ever use this. So I feel your pain.
I know. It's like
been there.
sometimes we live and learn, right? They should all do samples that you can at least
honestly.
get samples.
Honestly.
Be a good way to make money.
Well, I figure we start the morning with a little bit of positivity today. Todd McShay, national draft analyst, Todd McShay doing his own thing, doing a great job covering the NFL draft. I feel like the theme of this Titans draft class is how much national people are loving it. This is not a team that gets a lot of national love very often. You don't have to have it. Doesn't validate much, but I like Todd McShay. So I like when he says things like this.
One of my favorite draft classes in the entire draft. They just took all my guys. That's my guy. And then the next, that's my guy. Who took him? Oh, Tennessee. Cam Ward was the obvious, but beyond that, Femi Oladejo.
Your guy, you're darling. Yeah.
Transfer from, Cal to UCLA, off the ball linebacker to edge, explosive.
During the year, by the way.
Powerful.
Not like, a year ago he made the switch. It was this year during the season that he made the switch.
Kevin Winston, I got done with, I had to go back to 2023 tape because the injury this year. I love Kevin Winston and where they got him in the 3rd round, too. I thought he was the second best,
No way
third
if he's
best
healthy,
safety.
he goes there. No way if he's healthy.
No. He's going ahead of him in Warrior, I think. Chimere DK, the deep crosser guy.
The king of the cross.
4.3, 4 speed, whatever it was. Then Gunnar Helm, my Jake Ferguson.
Yeah.
Traits for nothing. This guy just gets open and makes plays. And then Alec Iomanor, where they got him.
Love where they got him.
Kalel Mullings.
Late. I think that's about where he should
It should be where he goes, but
Yeah.
that's a flyer pick on a back who went from linebacker to running back and is just learning the position, but he's a big son of a gun. I like this draft a lot.
That's Todd McShay talking on his show this week. A lot of optimism, Kayla, over this Titans draft class.
And I love it from a guy like him because let's separate some of the analysts that, even we have on this show and we highlight their drafts or their mocks because we've got to do that. We have to get everybody's opinion. But Todd McShay is a college football mind, right? Like that's where he spent all of his time. And so he's watched a lot of these players over the last few years where they were, where they transferred to. So for me, that was such a green light because he was able to notice and recognize a handful of the Titans draft picks, not only notice and recognize, but say, hey, look, this is why I liked this guy, or this was really good value. And I think that that's what we're starting to see as a whole, people recognizing the value of these picks. Even if you thought they shouldn't have taken Chimere DK in that spot, well, guess what? They also got Alec Iomanor as well. So you got to be happy with that. And, Kevin Winston, that is becoming more and more of a popular, I think, pick for the fact that if he was healthy, he would have gone sooner. Well, guess what? They have a little time to have him slowly kind of get into the system. And again, he's probably going to be healthy to go for training camp, but you don't have to speed up the process because you've got some guys there. So overall, Will, I love hearing that from a mind like Todd McShay because he's really watched the game and watched these players specifically.
Yeah, I think I feel as good about these day 3 receivers as I ever have a day 3 receiver haul for the Titans. Even a couple of years ago with Jaquan Jackson coming in, I don't think anybody was expecting Jaquan Jackson to come right into that Titans team and contribute and be a dude. I honestly expect Alec Iomanor and Chimere DK to step right in and, because they're going to have to, also play a role. But it feels like this class being deeper at that wide receiver position might have worked out really well for this team.
I think so. And again, with where they were able to get them, and I don't really think, if you want my honest opinion, I don't think they thought they were going to get Alec Iomanor there. I think they thought he'd be gone. And I know he dropped a little because of the injuries of his past. but I think they were in love with Chimere Dike. Like, that's a fact. For them to take
Crazy traits, yeah.
crazy traits. And I think they love the fact, Will, that not only do they see him fitting in right away with this offense and being able to be a speed piece for them, they also know he's going to be a special teams piece. It's not like Jaquan, you mentioned, where they just think of him primarily that first year, at least, as a special teamer, and that didn't even work out.
615-737-1045 is our number. We stream the show live at 1045 The Zone TV. You can watch us on Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. Coming up, how do you have to change your expectations for Tennessee Vols football heading into 2025, considering all the change that has happened in the transfer portal the last couple of weeks? We'll talk about it next.
Hey, it's Kayla and Ramon for Window Nation. Look, April is about to be over with, but right now you have time still to get in on Window Nation's deal because it's a great time to do that. Buy 4, get 4 free sale. That's going on right now till the end of April. You can pay nothing until 2027. If you buy a house full of windows, they're going to include a free entry door on top of that. Who doesn't love a deal like that? We love Window Nation. Allergy season, you know it's here, and their top quality construction seals and insulation blocks more allergens from getting into your home, which we all love. Again, hurry, the sale ends April 30th. Reasons why we love Window Nation. Well, they get it done, and they get it done the right way. Albert also says a valued customer, by the way. Great value, great product, great customer service. He highly recommends it. 50-point inspection on every single window before it even leaves the factory, and 20-point inspection of every window when it is installed. Like I said, they're going to do it the right way the first time. So get in on this deal now. Schedule a free fast estimate today at 866-90Nation or go online to windownation.com.
Wednesday morning, RKW brewed by Scooters Coffee on 104.5 The Zone. Download the Scooters Coffee mobile app today. Order ahead and save $2 off your first mobile order. 615-737-1045. Talking some Vols football here in hour one this morning. Kayla, how much have you changed your opinion and expectation for Tennessee football without Nico in 2025 this season?
It's changed a little bit, not going to lie. Maybe 2 extra games that I would give them a little bit of the slight advantage. I'll probably take away that advantage just for the fact that I don't know yet what to expect out of the transfer Joey Aguilar, or, you know, in the situation that it's not him, Jake Merklinger or McIntyre. I just don't know exactly what to expect because you haven't really seen them do it before in a season. So I think we talk so much about the quarterback being the pulse of the team, and I think that's what we expected from Nico Iamaleava this year, was him to take a huge step forward in kind of controlling the way that offense, you know, was, making his wide receivers, by the way, who are younger and they've got some new guys in there, making them better and becoming a more vocal leader. And that now we don't have, like, we're not going to see that here. And so now you're expecting these other guys to come in, which I think they're capable of the leadership part, no doubt about it. However, I just don't know right away what we're going to see from them on the field. And if it is a guy like Joey Aguilar, it is going to take some time to build that chemistry with his weapons because he just hasn't been here long enough. So just with the quarterback and how big it is in the college game, I think my expectations have lowered just a bit.
So Joey Aguilar comes in, officially committing yesterday to Tennessee, 6,760 yards, 56 touchdowns in 2 seasons at Appalachian State. Tennessee is lucky that player-led workouts are allowed in the summer now. So in recent seasons, the NCAA has changed its rules on some of these offseason workouts, if you're unfamiliar. So coaches can do limited on-field drills with players as long as there is no contact or opposing players. So Aguilar can study film with coaches. He can throw to wide receivers. He can run through the offense without a defense on the field, is essentially the rule for Joey Aguilar and for Jake Merklinger and George McIntyre and Tennessee quarterbacks at this point. So running through the list of who Tennessee has lost in the transfer portal, it is a lot longer list than guys they have brought in. Okay. So going back to December, including now, most recently, you've lost Christian Charles, Jacoby Thomas, John Slaughter, Larry Johnson, Nico Iamaleava. Guys who contributed. I'm not going to go through these, PWOs or preferred walk-ons and guys at the bottom of the roster who likely were not going to contribute anyway. But guys who were going to play a factor this year who are now gone. Jalen Smith, the inside linebackers, Mississippi State. Defensive lineman Jason Jenkins at FSU. Christian Harrison, Holden Stays, Jordan Matthews, corner at Vandy now. Nathan Leacock, Caleb Perry, Squirrel White, Chaz Nimrod, Cam Selden, and Caleb Webb. So there are no guys in that list that are major studs that are really starters you desperately wanted to keep. I think Jacoby Thomas is maybe the only one not named Nico who fits into that category. You bring in Josh Shell, a transfer defensive lineman who committed to yesterday from Grand Valley State. Of course, Joey Aguilar. You got 2 starting linemen in the portal, Sam Pendleton from Notre Dame, Wendell Moe from Arizona, Star Thomas, the Duke running back, and Amari Jefferson, the Alabama receiver who spent most of spring injured. I think it is time to lower expectations a bit for Tennessee football because I think the floor got lower. Tennessee football's ceiling might honestly still be close to where it was before, because what was Tennessee's ceiling with Hendon Hooker, Josh Heupel's, first and second season? Still pretty high. Mm-hmm. Still at that point, in year 2, a team that went to the Orange Bowl and beat Alabama. So if Josh Heupel can do it again and change Joey Aguilar into a Hendon Hooker type playmaker, that is a total unrealistic expectation. But let's say, for the sake of argument, Joey Aguilar hits and can just hit open receivers and can be turned into a guy at quarterback. Well, then all of a sudden we're having a pretty different conversation. Like, hey, this Tennessee offense, if you just have a quarterback that hits open receivers, then yeah, this can still be a 9 or 10 win team. However, I think Tennessee is now a victim of what a lot of teams are a victim of. The floors are lower for so many teams in college football nowadays because of how much you have to take in the transfer portal, that I think the low watermark for Tennessee is a lot lower without Nico. I think we saw what the low end of Nico Imaliava was last season. I think it's fair to expect him behind a better O-line to take a step forward this season. So for me, I think the changing expectation is Tennessee could win 4 games. Tennessee could win 5 games. I still think they're probably an 8-win team, to be honest with you, is the way I see it today, with still more roster construction needing to happen. But I think that's what's probably uncomfortable for Josh Heupel right now. If Joey Aguilar doesn't hit, if Jake Merklinger's not ready for the moment, if you've got to put in the true freshman, George McIntyre, you're talking about a low end of what's possible that's now, I think, a lot lower.
Yeah, and I want to go back to what you said about Hendon Hooker and when he transferred to Tennessee, and there weren't at that time a ton of expectations. You didn't know exactly what you were going to get out of Hendon Hooker. I think he exceeded expectations, right? I mean, clearly,
completely.
That's not
within about 3 games.
Exactly. Like that, you kind of knew. And I wonder, again, in this situation where you had Hendon Hooker, who played at Virginia Tech for 3 seasons before he transferred to Tennessee. And, I know he had dealt with a couple of injuries as well, so the expectations weren't sky high. But for him then to come into the SEC, and I get it, the ACC is a Power 5 conference. I understand that. But it's not like at that time these were high-caliber teams that you were playing like you were in the SEC.
But he also wasn't good.
Exactly.
He wasn't playing well.
He comes here, and at a flip of a switch, you see what Heupel was able to do with him. What gives me hope is with Joey Aguilar, while he played at a place like Appalachian State, he's not facing the biggest competition. UCLA saw something in him enough to bring him over and make him the starter. Unfortunately, this whole thing went down. Obviously, Tennessee and Josh Heupel, who has worked with quarterbacks in the past and elevated their game, saw something in him to come over. I think we're going to see Joey Aguilar start at some point. I don't know. If it will be right from the start. I think it will be, right? But I think he could get a lot out of this guy who has a great arm, who can sling it down the field, who can do some really good things in this offense. I think the biggest test with him is how quickly he connects with those receivers and how much he can make them better. And obviously limiting turnovers, which Heupel's system allows you to do a little bit. But, Will, when you look at the schedule, you're right. I mean, you're still going to run into the tough guys that you run into every year. Starting out with Syracuse is not going to be easy because you are still, kind of getting this team together. There's still a lot of newness for the quarterback, whoever it might be starting. But then you've got, Georgia. I know it's at Tennessee, but that one's difficult to see. Tennessee's at Alabama. I mean, even Oklahoma at Tennessee this year is going to be a challenge, and Tennessee goes to Florida again. So those are just games that at this point now, maybe you felt more comfortable with some of them. Now you're saying, well, I don't know.
So it's going to be interesting because I think we have questions we've never had to ask before about Tennessee football. The first of which is, how does Josh Heupel function with a gunslinger? Mm-hmm. Tennessee's never really had a risk-prone, gunslinging quarterback. Joey Aguilar is that. He will make a lot of very dangerous throws, but a lot of times that's kind of what makes him good as well. You watch him play, and he can fit the ball in the tight windows. He can take risks that work. I think that's the question, is how much does Josh Heupel allow Joey Aguilar, with a short amount of time to really earn his trust, a leash to be himself? Because this is not like a situation that the Titans have with Cam Ward, of like, hey, look, you got plenty of time to earn my trust. Like Brian Callahan talks about that. At any level of football, quarterbacks have to earn the trust of their head coach. Well, he doesn't really have to earn much of that, quite honestly, because A, he's not going to have much practice time. Mm-hmm. And B, like, if he's by far the best option, you kind of just got to roll with it and roll the dice a little bit. Like, that's what Josh Heupel's going to have to decide. Like, do I go with the devil I know, or the thing that could maybe raise my ceiling the most? Because I think Tennessee's ceiling this season, and meeting that ceiling, is with Joey Aguilar at quarterback, with a guy who gives you elite physical ability, the ability to throw the ball downfield once again, yes, some interceptions, but if you can take away some of those difficult decisions and dangerous decisions based off of the system that gets guys wide open, like this system is such that if you just hit open receivers, you will luck into like 2,500 passing yards. I mean, truly.
Right, true.
Like you will literally, if you can just hit open receivers, you can have some success in this offense. We know from the beginning of Josh Heupel's tenure, Joe Milton couldn't do that at the beginning. We know last year, fast forward, that Nico Imaliava couldn't do it at times. That is what gives me optimism that this could still work out for a 8 or 9 win season for Josh Heupel, which I think would be a success in 2025.
I think we're really going to see a big part of who Heupel is. Again, we saw what he did with that when Hendon Hooker came here, and that experiment worked really well with this offense. But as players have to grow, so do coaches in this business. And I think what we can look at too this year is not just the player, whoever that quarterback might be, whatever is going on with this offense, but Josh Heupel as well, and how he is maybe adapting to the quarterback a little. We talk about it all the time with how Brian Callahan needs to make sure that the fit is around Cameron Ward. This is not the exact same thing, but I will say if you have attributes like Joey Aguilar has with being a gunslinger and getting it down the field, then Josh Heupel kind of has to allow him, if he believes this is his starter, to be able to do those things. That is what a good coach does, is they adapt. And sometimes it might not be the first thing that you want to do because you're set in your ways.
Yep.
But I think Heupel has to be able to do that. And we could see something where we're like, wow, he really had a great year in terms of his coaching because he had to change some things. So we'll see that.
Here's what I think Tennessee is walking into in 2025. I think Tennessee is walking into a season that gets everyone angry enough to invest more the next season. And I think that is something that is a theme of good teams in college football this upcoming season. I think it is going to be a kind of frustrating year that motivates boosters, that motivates Josh Heupel, that sets you up for future seasons in the same way that Texas Tech has loaded up in the transfer portal. Andy Staples put out his post-spring top 25 yesterday at On3, and this list is riddled with teams that kind of got mad and got rich, for lack of a better term. I mean, Texas Tech, maybe not mad. They're not a program with a ton of expectations over the last couple of years, but they spent a lot of money. You've got Auburn, 13th on this list, who has gotten angry from the way that things have gone, for lack of a better term, and they've now overcorrected to spending a lot more money to supplement some pretty good high school recruiting classes. You have LSU that has probably the #1 transfer portal class in the country this season. You have Michigan, who's kind of back on the scene this season, 17th on this list from Andy. Bryce Underwood, the $5 million quarterback, coming there, the 5-star that decommitted from LSU right at the last moment. And Oklahoma, who you mentioned, is not on Andy's top 25. I would put them in my top 25 because they've signed everyone in the transfer portal. They have Mateer, they have Ott, they have still some question marks in the offensive line and at receiver, but they have gotten angry because of what's happened down there. I think that's the kind of season Tennessee is walking into. I think this is a calm before the storm kind of rebuild that maybe Josh Heupel is better for what happens this season. Look back and say, you know what? Maybe we should have buyouts in our contracts. You know what? Maybe I should rethink the way that I recruit the transfer portal, because Austin Price told us yesterday, it's hard for Tennessee to find backups in the transfer portal right now. Well, it's not hard for Lane Kiffin.
Right.
I mean, heck, Lane Kiffin just went and got a backup quarterback from Ferris State that is agreeing to go there and be QB2. Florida did it with former Tennessee quarterback Harrison Bailey. But we're going to pay you to be the backup quarterback. That's not something Josh Heupel is doing. I think that's the big question mark. It's the big concern that I have for this team is Josh Heupel's inability to backfill the roster with transfer portal depth pieces on offense, because they've done that at times on defense. They have not done it enough for me on offense.
Right, because you still have to spend the money for backups now. And that is what it is now if you want power guys and being able to have a power roster. And I think there's a fine line too of balancing that, Will, because I do think Tennessee has done a good job at not being somebody who they aren't. And what I mean by that is they're not trying to be Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin and just say, oh, the portal's open, we'll bring anybody.
I agree with that.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like, I think they've done a good job of establishing, like, these are the types of players we want. Now, sometimes you get screwed over. I mean, these are young kids, and we saw it with Nico Iamaleava, who was, by the way, a recruit. This wasn't a transfer portal guy. Like, sometimes guys don't work out, and this is the day and age we live in. But I do think Tennessee has an idea of what type of player and culture they want there. So I think you're right, Will. They will probably have to spend some more money in some of these backup spots to be keeping up with the Joneses, especially in the SEC and Big Ten. But at the same time, they got to be careful because you don't want to lose your identity as a program either, because that is who Tennessee is. That's what I actually love about this program is they're not trying to be some of these other programs that are just saying, hey, we're just open for anybody and we'll pay them whatever.
I think the challenge you're walking into is not being Florida State.
Yeah.
I think Florida State was the cautionary tale of transfer portal nightmares. Because for every Riley Leonard and Notre Dame that uses the portal to supplement their roster well and correctly with a quarterback that elevates everything, there is a Florida State with DJ Uiagalelei. And that's what I can't get out of my head. And it's not even the battered Vols syndrome element of it. Mm-hmm. This is something that could happen to your program. I mean, we're having a Tennessee conversation this morning. This could happen to pretty much anybody outside the elite in college football. Like Ohio State is not going to go 4-8 ever. Right. Like Georgia could not hit on Gunnar Stockton and maybe have some subpar quarterback play. Like Georgia's floor is probably still 7-5 or 8-4. But you get programs like Florida State that have to overcorrect and overcompensate in the transfer portal for what they didn't get in the high school recruiting ranks. Tennessee's not at that level because they're not using that many transfers.
Sure.
And that, to your point, is where I think Tennessee is still in their identity. Like it or not, a lot of these freshmen and sophomores are just going to play.
They are.
And Tennessee likes many of them enough to say, look, we identified you as a 16-year-old enough where you are going to fit into our program as a high school recruit. I'd rather ride with that than a guy from some random, Power 4 school or G5 or FCS that I'm probably overpaying. He's got to overpay to get somebody at the transfer portal who I don't know about you culturally. I don't know about personality as much. There is more variation. There are so many busts that come out of the transfer portal because you didn't do a lot or you didn't do as much legwork on many of those guys. So, yes, Tennessee is not Florida State in terms of what they added, but Florida State is the cautionary tale that everyone's floor is lower than it used to be. All it takes is a couple of guys getting lured into the portal because their agent thinks they can get more money. A guy you probably, quote unquote, should have kept based on how you treated them and the opportunities you were about to give them. It just takes a few of those guys to leave, and it can all come crashing down quickly.
Like you alluded to, sorry, Kate,
no, you're fine.
Cut you off, but like you alluded to, there's a lot of freshmen and sophomores on this team. They're going to have to play. Bringing in Aguilar, not a lot of transfer over from the last couple of years. You have Chris Brazzell, receiver, Mike Matthews. These guys have to play. It's going to take time to gel, and you have to tamper your expectations because there is no identity on this offense other than just what Josh Heupel likes to run, and you're going to have to tamper those expectations this year. And maybe, like you said, move them to the following year.
The question I have, too, are the new offensive tweaks that they implemented for Nico in the spring still going to happen with Joey Aguilar?
That's a great question.
Adam Sparks wrote about that at Knoxville News Sentinel saying, does Josh Heupel have time to tweak things to fit his new quarterback? Because he's done that. I mean, Josh Heupel changed things of the offense for Hendon Hooker on the fly because Hendon was a better athlete and a better runner than Joe Milton was.
Sure.
Does he have time to do that again? Probably, because I genuinely trust Josh Heupel to make adjustments to his offense because it's what he does. It's why he is a good head coach. But he has shown, Josh Heupel, that he has the ability to change his offense for who his quarterback is at Oklahoma, at Missouri, at UCF, and at Tennessee. So how many tweaks does he have for Joey based on, again, like if you believe he's the starter, are you willing to gamble and say, all right, I'm going to make adjustments for this guy that might even not win the job? He's got a lot of big decisions to make.
And how quickly can Joey Aguilar, be able to soak that up? Because he's been a lot of places too. Diablo Valley Community College. He's a junior college transfer to Appalachian State. He was at UCLA, just waiting to be the starter. So, he could be at that point where he can pick things up quickly. Like he has been used to kind of the Cam Ward track, not at that level, but being able to learn from different offensive coordinators and so on and so forth. So.
And I'll make it as clear as I can. Like I mentioned, there are 7 or 8 teams that are in the elite level that their floors will never be lower than bowl eligibility. Tennessee is not one of those teams. Tennessee is not in the tier of Georgia, and I'll even throw Notre Dame in there at this point because they're recruiting so well. Like Oregon, Alabama, like teams that at their low end are always going to be bowl eligible. I think there's a way Tennessee doesn't make a bowl game this year because Tennessee's not won enough high school recruiting battles to give them kind of a cushion to fall on with so many of these losses. Now, I think Tennessee will be in a bowl game, but I think there is a world where Tennessee's floor is a lot lower than it was a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
I think is essentially where we are at this point. 615-737-1045. Open for your reaction. How much have you had to change expectations for Tennessee football for this upcoming season? Some negative stuff in there, some difficult conversations. I'll brighten it up for you. Tennessee Hoops got some good news yesterday, some very good news. We'll talk about it next. RKW is brewed by Scooters Coffee with locations in White House, Mount Juliet, Rivergate, Smyrna, and Brentwood. You can download that Scooters Coffee mobile app today. Order ahead and save $2 off your first mobile order. We'll get back into the NFL discussion. Titans making some roster moves. We'll tell you about it in 15 minutes. 615-737-1045. Yesterday, Tennessee basketball adds a commitment from transfer guard Amari Abram. A man who averaged 12.5 points per game, 4.5 rebounds, and an assist and a half at Louisiana Tech last season. 42% shooter, 37 from three last season, Kayla. A guy that checks a lot of boxes for Rick Barnes.
I really like this guy. I watched some of his highlights last night. And first of all, I like how he carries himself. Like, you can instantly see the way he plays. Like, this is going to be one of those leaders on the team that fits the culture of Tennessee and what Rick Barnes is looking for. Because, again, we go back to the transfer portal, whole thing. And you've got to not only add guys who are going to add something on the hardwood, but also are going to add things and be a fit in the culture, and especially in a Rick Barnes culture. Now, you mentioned the three-point shooting. He almost does it, so seamlessly in terms of like when he can step out and shoot from beyond the arc. You mentioned the numbers there, but he's also a good player on the other end, and that's where he fits with Rick Barnes. This guy takes pride in playing good, solid defense, and I think that's where the fit is for him. Is he can shoot the three, sure, yeah, but he can also play defense and takes pride in it.
Yeah. I think it's this situation where Tennessee did not get its first choice at shooting guard, but might have actually lucked into a pretty good fit. Rick Barnes, in talking about Amari Abrams, says he takes pride in guarding the opponent's best offensive player, which is a mindset we love here at Tennessee. That is a must-have mindset, especially considering the perimeter players you're going to have to guard at Tennessee in the SEC. So, guy that started his collegiate career at Ole Miss, made 22 starts 2 seasons ago, averaging 8 points per game, a couple of rebounds and a couple assists. Played at Georgia Tech the year after that. It didn't really stick there, just 3.5 points per game there. And it was better for Louisiana Tech last season. So, like Austin Price told us, I mean, so many of these guys that are contributors that have legit talent are coming in as this being their fourth stop. Yeah. And that is the case for Abram. I think for Tennessee, just the need at shooting guard is so different for this upcoming season. Like, they needed facilitators. They needed different types of guys last year beyond just shooters, because Chaz Lanier was a shooter and Jordan Gainey brought a little bit of a different skill set and all of those things. With the amount of guys they can have get into the lane and drive this upcoming season, Jacoby Gillespie, his ability to beat guys off the dribble, Nate Ament, his ability to get it down low and attack the basket, and even just the big guys like Jalen Carey playing back to the basket, and Felix Okpara and Cade Phillips and Estrella coming back, and Dwayne Brown, the freshman. They need guys to just stand in the corner and wait and then shoot it when it's passed to them. And this pass team couldn't get it inside enough for that to really be much of a thing of just playing inside out, because this team was running sets to get guys open to catch and shoot. It'll be a little bit different this time, but I like someone that is just a shooter that can come in as a perimeter defender and just hit open shots when they have the opportunity, and that's what I think Amari Abram is for Tennessee.
You definitely can see that when you watch the film. And you talked about just the different additions, whether that be in the transfer portal this year. Just maybe when you go through a season, and then especially you go through the tournament, Will, and you see like, okay, what are the things that we didn't have that we need to have? I think Rick Barnes done a good job, and his staff, of going out and addressing that. And you mentioned this might not have been their first pick in terms of a guard. But I think he has, Amari Abram, all of the things you need the guy to have to fit in here at Tennessee. And I actually like the road that he's traveled to be able to see like, okay, I need to up my game. Like, okay, now I was at La Tech last year, Sunbelt Conference. I'm going to the SEC. Like Rick Barnes, like many people go to Rick Barnes for a reason, to be better, to like, up their game to a next level. So I think he knows too, coming into this Tennessee program, that he is going to have to do that. Yep. So I think you're going to get the production you want out of this man, young man. And again, good leader from everything I have read too with him.
Louisiana Tech, a Conference USA team now.
Yeah.
not Sun Belt anymore.
Oh, Conference
So,
USA. Sorry, that's what
Yeah.
I meant. I got those two. I know. I
it's
feel like
basically
they're
the same conference. I
thing.
mean, all we're doing is just putting a different logo
Right.
on the court
Right.
for many of these
Conference
teams.
USA.
Conferences have just changed to other names at this point.
Can't keep up with it.
Going back to the Tennessee football discussion and the changing expectations, in your mind, how much has the pressure on Josh Heupel changed for this upcoming season? Like, are we going to give him a pass if things don't go well this year?
I don't usually say this, Will, because I think like you've got to do your job as a head coach and you got to do it well. But I will say that when you lose your quarterback that you recruited, that was going to be your guy, and in year two, if anything, we were all waiting to see, okay, how does Josh Heupel tweak this offense a little bit to help out Nico Iamaleava? How does Nico Iamaleava elevate this offense and the players around him? Because again, he has another year under his belt. I'm going to give him a pass, actually, because I just think the quarterback, like I mentioned in the earlier segment, it's the biggest part of your team, no matter if you want to admit it or not. It's a huge part of the college game. It's what we talk about the most. And when you have that quarterback no longer in your program, whether it was their choice or not, he's not there. And you're kind of in a way having to reboot things with whoever does step in, because you're not going and getting some, 5-star guy that was in the portal because, somebody else won the job that was a 5-star guy. You get what I'm saying?
Sure.
So I'm going to give him a pass. But you got to still win games.
I don't know. I don't think I am, to be honest with you, because it was still his choice to go take this risk and pay a high school quarterback a lot of money, and Nico. And you got to live with those consequences when that choice doesn't work out the way you want it to.
Yeah.
That's the
fair.
tricky part. I mean, we a year ago would never have been having a conversation about Mike Norvell being on the hot seat until that Florida State team just totally was a disaster this past season. And again, I don't think Tennessee has Florida State's floor. Don't hear that with what I'm saying, because Florida State replaced a whole lot more and had lesser talented recruiting classes out of high school. Like, they had less of a safety net if their transfers didn't work out, and they didn't work out. So I don't think Tennessee is going to be a 2-10 or 3-9 Florida State in 2025. But I do think that is a cautionary tale that, like, now all this sounds great in April until you go to the Swamp and lose by 20.
Yeah.
Until your stadium gets taken over by a rival and you lose. And that emotion and that feeling, it's going to fester and it's not going to feel good. And pressure is going to mount again on Josh Heupel. Like, I'm not saying he's going to be on the hot seat in any capacity if this season doesn't go well. Like, don't hear me when I say that. But I think the pressure overall on programs is based on this idea that, like, you don't get to carry over success a lot because you're not carrying over the same team. Like, this is a totally new team than what 2024 was for Tennessee football. And that's the only thing I say, that just, like, if they get blown out by some of these rivals, pressure will mount quickly on Josh Heupel.
And real quick,
very quickly.
That's the difference for me, too, in giving him a pass and not. If it looks like Florida State and what they did when they brought DJ Uiagalelei in, that was a disaster.
It was.
And that might change my mind a little. I don't think that will happen, but if it does, maybe I waver more in the other direction.
Yeah, it's certainly, like, I think Joey Aguilar's floor is above DJ's. I do too. I was never, even after the good Oregon State year,
you were not.
I was never a believer in DJ Uiagalelei.
Yep.
I'm never really that worried about Josh Heupel quarterbacks.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I'm just not.
He's done a good job
I think
with
the
them.
floor of Josh Heupel QBs is still really, really high, which makes me think this is still a 7 or 8 win team. Realistically, I think it's probably an 8-win team.
Yeah.
As of today. Coming up, it is a winning Wednesday here at 104.5 The Zone. We've got some Nashville Sounds tickets for you coming up. Plus, the Titans made a couple of moves yesterday. I care less about the moves than I do the possibilities they represent, and that's next.
Good morning. It's 7:02 from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I'm Justin Hawkins. The Tennessee Titans made a couple moves yesterday, terminating the contracts of offensive guard Arlington Hambright and offensive tackle Isaiah Prince. But sometimes having the top pick in the can have its perks outside of the NFL draft. It means having the first choice in the waiver wire. Yesterday, the Titans were awarded two players, outside linebacker Titus Leo and safety Mark Perry. In other NFL news, the Minnesota Vikings and edge rusher Andrew Van Ginkel reached an agreement on Tuesday on a one-year, $23 million contract extension. Per his agents, Drew and Jason Rosenhaus, Van Ginkel is coming off his first Pro Bowl selection and a career-high 11.5 sacks last season. Today, you can join 3HL live from Geodis Park for Tennessee's Big Orange Caravan this afternoon from 3 to 6 p.m. Tune in to hear exclusive interviews from Tennessee athletics, such as head coaches Josh Heupel, Rick Barnes, Kim Caldwell, athletic director Danny White, and the new voice of the Tennessee Vols, Mike Keith. Speaking of Rick Barnes, Tennessee basketball landed shooting guard Amari Abram yesterday in the transfer portal. Abram transferred out of Louisiana Tech and averaged 12.3 points, 4.4 rebounds, and 1.5 steals per game last season for the Bulldogs. The commitment came Monday, but after a visit to Knoxville, but the announcement became public yesterday. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you have to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
RKW 104.5 The Zone is brewed by Scooters Coffee with locations in White House, Mount Juliet, Rivergate, Smyrna, and Brentwood. You can download the Scooters Coffee mobile app today to order ahead and save $2 off your first mobile order. No Ramon this morning. You've got myself, Will Bowling, Kayla Anderson, Justin Hawkins, our producer, on a winning Wednesday with 104.5 The Zone and the Nashville Sounds. We've got two tickets for you to see the Sounds host the Norfolk Tides next Wednesday for racing night at First Horizon Park. Be caller number 5 right now at 615-737-1045 for two tickets to see Sounds and Tides next Wednesday. The first 500 fans of the ballpark are invited to play music bingo throughout the game and turn their winning board into a prize from local businesses. So start your engines for racing theme night and start those dialing fingers. 615-737-1045. You can enjoy some high-speed fun as the Sounds celebrate the world of racing with special promotions and a fast-paced atmosphere. Again, caller number 5 right now gets two tickets to see Sounds and Tides next Wednesday. 615-737-1045. Best of luck.
There we go. And the lines are lighting up. And it's always a good time over at the Sounds. Whether you like baseball or not, they make it entertaining. So go check it out.
They certainly do. No doubt. Yesterday, the Titans make a couple of roster moves. They claim outside linebacker Titus Leo and defensive back Mark Perry. Not guys that are going to make a major impact. Mm-hmm. Team's roster now at 75 players, respectfully. I'm not giving you this story and diving into the details of this because these guys are going to fix any big problems on the roster. However, Kayla, it is important to note, as the team with the number 1 overall pick, you are also the top of the waiver claim. Mm-hmm. And that is an opportunity, I think, for the Titans, especially at the end of training camp when there is a massive humanity of guys who will become available to you. You have the first pick before anybody through this process, which I think will be helpful to this team.
No, it absolutely will, because I think what they're doing right now, and honestly with these two adds too, these are still young players in the league, defensive players, and what this team has made it clear about whether they're draft picks or you're picking up guys on the wire is they still want to develop players. And these two are particularly guys that they see could possibly fit and could be developmental still at a young age. But also, like you said, Will, they're going to get their pick of the litter. So when they start to see things starting to shape and they need somebody who's a plug and play at that point, you can go and get them before anybody else.
Yeah, certainly. So You get that through week 3 of the regular season. You have that opportunity. It doesn't last for the whole year, but it certainly does give you some ability to bring guys in on their current deals and contracts. I think that's the other thing that is worth a question to Mike Bergonzi and Chad Brinker and the Titans front office as they move forward into this thing. How much of your money is set aside for guys that you would want who could become available for probably more expensive than what they would otherwise get, right? Like a couple of years ago when Zach Cunningham was on the waiver wire and you were able to pick him up. Like he had to make through a lot of guys or a lot of teams. He's getting paid a pretty good chunk of money. Like guys like that who are coming in on those deals, I think could still play a role for this team, especially at edge rusher. And I think that is where the Titans could shop in the future.
You have to, Will. If you're Mike Borgonzi and company, you have to be saving money for that specific reason. Because, again, a lot of this is them betting on developmental pieces that have to show stuff also in camp that they're, like, confident these guys are ready to go at these positions where we're maybe not as deep, where we maybe not have as many starters as we need. And so you have to be able to go in and then grab some of these guys that you know can be plug and plays and start guys. I think they're smart enough to realize that, too. We got to put some money aside. Good thing money is not an issue for this team, right, either.
Yeah, certainly not. They got room.
Yeah.
Chase, our winner.
All right.
Of the Nashville Sounds tickets. Chase, hope you're a racing fan for
congratulations.
Racing night with the Nashville Sounds next week. Elsewhere in the headlines yesterday, Bill Belichick is still in the headlines.
Oh, God.
He is taking a crazy amount of liberties and credit in his new book. This is some major spin from him and his team. So in a lengthy email posted on social media by, yes, of course, his girlfriend, Jordan Hudson, Belichick describes himself as the leader of an organization that grew from a $500 million franchise to an $8 billion organization. If you're unfamiliar with how things work in the NFL, just owning a team gets you more value as the NFL gains more value. This is kind of wild to me. Like Bill Belichick taking credit for, hey, I was such a good coach that my franchise was just so much more valuable by the time I left than when it is now. Well, how about Dan Snyder, who was the leader of an organization in Washington who's terrible, who stinks out loud, who's a professionally bad football team, purchased it for $800 million. He just sold it for $6.05 billion. So does he get the same credit? Does Dan Snyder get to write a book about how much value he's added? This is crazy to me how Belichick is just totally becoming a non-sympathetic person and image at this point in his career.
He never was really sympathetic, Will, right? Like when he was at New England, and granted,
it was a little bit.
To take nothing away from him, obviously he did a lot of great things for New England for a long time, but that was also paired up with what Tom Brady did. It was like the perfect duo of terms of how they got things done and the championships they've won. I think they both elevated the New England Patriots. But yeah, I mean, it's an NFL franchise, first and foremost. Yeah. It's also New England, who is historic and is always going to be one of those big, programs, whether or not it's him or now Mike Vrabel. They're always going to get the headlines. They're going to be considered one of those top organizations. But for him to write a book, first of all, did Jordan Hudson illustrate this whole thing too? Because I feel like she is giving him incredibly poor advice, whether it be the CBS interview or just being in his ear wherever he seems to do his next move. And this is just I don't like this look. It makes him look egotistical, and I don't like it.
It's just so funny to me. Like, nothing that you do as a coach on the field earns you that much value.
No.
Like, the business people are the business people. And as the league and the television contracts associated with the league and the corporate partnerships grow, then the value of your team is going to grow if you're 1/32 of that.
Absolutely. It's the NFL. It's an NFL team.
Crazy. It's totally crazy.
What are we talking about?
Jordan Hudson, his girlfriend, has significantly hurt his image, honestly. Like the CBS This Morning interview that we played yesterday where she's saying, like, oh, we're not going to talk about how we met. Like, honestly, just lying about it was probably the best thing you could do. Like,
right.
No matter how it was, or just like, oh, we met on a plane, this isn't about us. We were here to talk about the book. Like, okay, cool. Like, anything would have been better than the way they handled that.
And what I had heard too, Will, I was listening to another interview about this, is this was actually going on throughout the whole CBS interview, which, by the way, is a great morning kind of just, it's a storytelling type of show, nothing, political or anything about it. So for her to give that much crap to this film crew, where throughout the whole interview, they said they finally had to put something in to show realistically what was happening. Yeah. Because that's not true journalism if you don't. And can you imagine, that was just that one snippet. She was involved in a lot of the interview the entire time. I would say, you got to get this girl away from you. And I'm all about powerful women, but this woman is crazy.
Yeah, she's a little wild. I mean, he was becoming to be more sympathetic after the HBO series of him and Nick Saban during COVID that came out. And it just felt like you were hearing more about Bill Belichick, like in his off-camera, off-field personality, just how funny a guy that he is.
Sure.
How just kind of he's maybe mellowed out a little bit as he's gotten older. Maybe not on the field, but I think off-field just as a person.
Yeah.
I think he was having the same character renaissance that Tom Brady had to an extent. Maybe not that much. He wasn't Tampa Tom, but he was becoming a little bit of a sympathetic figure. And it's like all of this has just taken that totally away. And I don't think he's ever going to coach the NFL again.
I don't either.
All this crap.
I think the NFL wants nothing to do with him.
I agree.
And I think he looks at it too, is he's in power over there at North Carolina, Will. I mean, he's in complete power again of a situation. And, what he doesn't know is Jordan's complete power over him.
Yeah, she's the one with the real power.
Ironic, huh?
Totally. 615-737-1045. So Vegas has set totals for how well they think Cam Ward is going to perform as a rookie quarterback for the Tennessee Titans in 2025. What are the expectations? What is a successful first season for your new starting quarterback, Cam Ward? That's next. Hey, it's Will Bowling. Is your water heater not heating? Maybe your sink is leaking, the drain is clogged. Well, here for you 24/7, 365. Our expert friends at Lee Company, they got you covered for all your plumbing needs. Right now, you can enjoy $30 off your next plumbing visit. Just contact Lee Company today at 615-567-1000 or online at leecompany.com for an appointment to take care of your home's plumbing from top to bottom. Lee Company's got over 80 years of experience. They've been trusted in this area since 1944, open 24/7, with 14 community locations in Tennessee, Kentucky, and Alabama. Over 1,700 employees. Their fleet of vehicles, you see them driving all around Middle Tennessee. Lee Company is there to help at a moment's notice when something isn't working properly. But I'd recommend going ahead and staying ahead of all of your electrical systems. Your water heater, when it's maybe on the fritz a little bit, but it's still working. No, make sure you go ahead and get that thing totally running efficiently before it just totally gives out on you. 615-567-1000 or contact them online at leecompany.com. That's Lee Company, all you need. RKW fueled by Scooters Coffee on 104.5 The Zone. Locations are Rivergate, Smyrna, Brentwood, White House, or Mount Juliet. Get that Scooters Coffee mobile app today. Save $2 off your first mobile order. So Vegas gives us the chance to set standards, to set expectations. And that's exactly what they've done for Cam Ward. I wanted to have this discussion, Caleb, for the past couple of weeks because, A, we've already been able to plan out how we would talk about Cam Ward as the QB1 of the Tennessee Titans, because we have known for quite some time that he would be the future quarterback of the Titans. And BetOnline gives us a good opportunity to do this. So they have set over-unders for Cam Ward's rookie production. 3,200.5 yards, 19.5 passing touchdowns, 12.5 interceptions. Kayla, what is the most attainable number out of these three for Cam Ward and the Titans in terms of his rookie production?
Passing yards.
Okay.
Yeah. I honestly, I was looking at some of these other guys you'll get to in a second. And what I can kind of see being a situation, I know he was not as talked about, and he is not talked about as generational talent like Caleb Williams was coming out of USC. However, there are very many similarities to their games. And I think that he's maybe not being put in as good of a situation as Caleb last year, but Caleb's wasn't perfect. And we saw that because they had to go add a lot of pieces up front and give him even more pieces in terms of the skill positions. So he passed for like 3,541 yards, right? He didn't have a bad rookie season.
20 touchdowns, 6 interceptions for Caleb Williams.
I look at that. I think even Cam could go a little above this and be a 3,600 yard type of guy.
That would be, a slam dunk successful first season. I wouldn't set that as the expectation, but would 3,200 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 13 picks, is that a successful first season for Cam Ward? Is that the expectation, or do you think he's better than that?
I think that's a good expectation, Will. Just for the fact that, again, we are going to have to give him a little grace because, again, the system around him is not perfect. We don't know exactly how the defense is going to be. That has to come into play as well. And you're going to still have to see some tweaks with this team who is, by the way, continuing to develop and will throughout the season. That's what they put all of their, emphasis on is development, and that includes the quarterback. So I think when you look at those numbers, Will, I think we're going to see him pass for a lot of yards because that's what Cam Ward can do, and they're going to build around him. I think he can have those touchdown numbers up there as well, and I think the interceptions, I think that's fair too because you know that there's going to be some mistakes this year. Hopefully those are mistakes, though, that you see him get some of those earlier on in the season, and you see it limited as the season goes on.
615-737-1045. I'd love your interaction on this and answer the question for us as well. What is the expectation? What do you expect to get out of Cam Ward as a rookie for the Tennessee Titans? So here's the question I have for you and the question I have for everyone. How much responsibility is on Cam Ward to elevate everything around him? This has been the conversation about him from 2 different stops in college, from coming to the Tennessee Titans. You pick Cam Ward to raise everything else. So what is the standard? What is Cam Ward going to have to be as a rookie in order for us to be able to call this a successful first season? Is it just that? If it is anything below 3,000 yards, a disappointment? If he's got 15 picks, is that a disappointment? Like, what is the standard of what Cam Ward is going to have to do? What is the bar he has to clear for us to be saying this time next year, yep, that's a good first step. That's a good, successful first season for Cam?
I think the bar first has to be set at how does he get better? And the regression can't be a part of the conversation. If we are going to be excited about what Cam Ward can do, especially after year one, because again, year one, I think for this whole team, we have to tamper our expectations all around. I think we need to see, his ability to fit in the scheme, Brian Callahan's scheme to fit him, I should say, and throw for a good amount of yards because again, we need this offense to look different, even if it's a small amount of even 3 more points a game, right? From what we've been used to seeing. They need to be, at least we need to see signs of a different type of offense with Cam Ward at the helm. But the biggest thing for me, Will, is again, I can have him be a little bit, up and down for the first few games as he's learning a new, way of playing, the level that he's playing at. But I have to see steady improvement. And if I can't see steady improvement with whether that be, how he's winning games or even the close games, the effort at the end, the not giving up, you make a bad play and you're then coming back, bouncing back, and you're making a good play. Those are the things I have to see throughout the season. And if you see it flip-flop or you see regression, then that's when I start to worry, like, okay, what are we going to then go into next year? You've got to see the improvement, the steady improvement. So mine's more set on that than it is strictly numbers. But I think he needs to pass for over 3,000 yards.
So I'll be honest with you, stats mean literally nothing for me for Cam Ward this year, because I think this is a team that is going to be passing a lot, losing games late.
Sure.
I don't think his team is going to be 3-14 again. I think they'll be better. I think the offensive line's floor is a lot higher than it was last season with no rookie starters, considering everyone stays healthy, knock on wood. J.C. Latham is a question mark. He's going to have to, again, cross-train back over at a different position at right tackle and be better. But, again, there's less unproven commodities around this quarterback than last year's quarterback. What I will say is, though, you're spending a lot of money on this offense. And I do think there is a certain level of expectation that comes with cap dollars. Like, Calvin Ridley's the highest paid player on your team.
Mm-hmm.
Calvin Ridley has a cap hit of $28 million. Your running back, Tony Pollard, is making $8.4 million. Your left tackle, Dan Moore, is making a lot of money. You're paying him $20 million a year.
Some would say too much.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the market value of a free agent left tackle is very expensive. Mm-hmm. You have a first-round pick at left guard. You have another first-round pick at right tackle. You have a guy who just started for the best team in the NFC in the regular season last year, starting at right guard. There are enough pieces around Cam Ward for us to expect good things. Now, statistically, it means nothing to me. Here's what I want to see. I want to see the it factor we saw at Miami. I want to see Cam Ward have it like we saw him have in college. What that means is take us on a game-winning drive.
Yep.
Check that box for us. Heck, Vince Young did that early in his career. If we want to compare back to some of the other rookie quarterbacks and their numbers we'll look at in a minute, there is a moment for rookie quarterbacks when it clicks and we all know, and sometimes the team loses, but we all know, oh, okay. Yep. Like Drake May last year. The Patriots lost to the Titans. Drake May's throw to put the Patriots in overtime in that game made me think, oh, that's a franchise quarterback. Okay. The guy's stats weren't even that good in that game. There were moments that were really bad for Drake May in that game and in many others, but there were enough wow moments for you to say, whoa, okay, cool. So that's the number one thing. Have the it factor, take us on some game-winning drives, and make some big throws.
Sure.
And that's what I care about with Cam, because not every 3,000-yard season is created equally. Last season, Caleb Williams got 3,500 yards, and I feel like we talk about him like he was a complete disaster as a rookie. An 87.8 quarterback rating. He was okay. I don't think he lived up to the year one expectations, because how many of those yards are coming when the Bears are getting blown out? Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter how you get to those yards. It matters, are you showing me that you are capable of leading this franchise to wins and elevating the people around you? That is what I want to see from Cam Ward as a rookie.
Yeah, I think it's hard to, like you said, you can't just put it on stats. Now, those are stats I think he can get done. I think he can achieve those. Like you said, some of these games, you might just be playing fast catch up, but in the same, realm of things, when you're asking for specifics, you got to give those. But it is more of a in the moment, realistically, how you're seeing Cam Ward continue to get better. You had mentioned like winning, like a game-winning drive, right? Or just winning a close game. Some of those like signature moments throughout the season that you're like, we see why they drafted Cam Ward. And maybe even the way that you take a huddle in a situation to take a lead in a game. There's so many things that even when we look at Will Levis last year, who, by the way, we were excited from what we thought Will Levis could be last year, right? But he's also not a first-round pick, a number 1 overall pick, and you saw a little bit of a sample size before. With Cam Ward, he's stepping into a brand new platform of how, you're playing in the NFL. It's elevated level. But I think the biggest thing is to see those little marks. And can he make a new receiver kind of blossom? Like, can we see one of these young receivers who we know is going to play a lot? Yeah. Can we see them maybe blossom a little bit? Can we see, Chig Okonkwo be a guy that can be consistent with a Cam Ward? Like, maybe a player that he's able to elevate. I would love to see that as well.
I think it's really interesting just how you compare this to the last time the Titans had a starting quarterback trying to earn trust to in Will Levis. Like, yes, he showed you flashes and gave you wow moments, but how many of those were just in the Falcons game? Mm-hmm. And that's the other part of it that I want to see from Cam Ward. You need to be better in Week 18 than you were in Week 1.
Boom.
Don't let your rookie season and taking a lot of hits and probably throwing some picks that you would want back ruin you and beat you down by the end of the year. Mm-hmm. We don't need to be talking about, like, God, Cam Ward's just running for his life and just trying to survive out there. Like, I want to see a better Cam Ward in Week 18 than I do in Week 1. So if we're talking about standards and expectations, if I had to put a number on it, I think Cam Ward gets to 3,000 yards. Mm-hmm. I think 3,000 yards is a fine standard because let's look at some of these other guys that were highly touted rookie quarterbacks. Trevor Lawrence had Urban Meyer as his head coach and still threw for 3,600 yards.
Yeah.
Now, he had 17 picks to only 12 touchdowns. His quarterback rating was awful at 71.9, but he still had 3,600 yards. Caleb Williams last year, 35-41, 20 touchdowns, 6 picks. Baker Mayfield, 3,700 yards, 27 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, the best QB rating of any of these guys we're looking at 93.7. Joe Burrow only played 10 games, but he had 2,600 yards. He was easily going to clear 3,000. Marcus Mariota, his rookie season, he only played 12 games, 2,800 yards, 19 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. And then Vince Young, going way back in 2006. Again, the league's changed a lot in those 19 years, but played 15 games, 13 of them were starts, 2,199 yards, 13 interceptions to 12 touchdowns. He ran for 552 as well and 7 touchdowns. That was the big thing with Vince, is he was such more of an athlete and a runner. I don't expect that level of rushing production from Cam. So, yes, I don't care about the stats, but gun to my head, if you're making me pick a number, I think 3,000 yards is a perfectly reasonable expectation for Cam Ward as a rookie.
Yeah, you just listed all those names, and I know you can't compare him to some of those guys, but what you have to take into account in a rookie's first year, if a rookie is not, is able to handle the moment and going to the next level and the adjustments and being bigger, badder, faster, right? Because this isn't the same defensive lines that he faced when he was, in college at any of those levels, whether it be ACC, Washington State, or of course, Incarnate Word. But here's the thing, like, if he is able to control the moment, and I have confidence in he's in the film room, he's always going to make adjustments. I think even in the private workout, there were adjustments that they gave him prior to that Bryan Callahan mentioned that he made those adjustments so quickly, and in the private workout showed that he had made those adjustments because Callahan wanted him to do something different in terms of one of the things. I don't think it was detailed in what he needed to change, but he is willing to do that, and he is willing to get in the film room and actually adapt it because he's a very smart player, which gets, I think, not talked about as much. Then if you have success too, like, it is hard in year one for defenses to adjust to some of these rookie quarterbacks. I mean, we see it all the time. Even C.J. Stroud's rookie season, Jaden Daniels, like, we'll see now how the league adjusts to Jaden Daniels now that they've got a ton of film on him. But that does help too. If the moment's not too big for Cam Ward and he does have success, he could have a lot of that throughout the season because, the defenses haven't seen that yet.
Here's what I don't want to do this upcoming season. I don't want to have the conversation of, well, he needed more help around him. He didn't have a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Cam Ward has a chance to be pretty good this year. He does. It doesn't mean he's just a slam dunk going to be great. Like, there are still major adjustments he's going to have to make to a different offense, and we'll see how much Brian Callahan can adjust to him. But, like, look at how much money is still being spent on this offense. Like, barring a rash of injuries, if, God forbid, Calvin Ridley is unavailable for a lot of the season.
Right.
If Dan Moore is not available for 17 games. Like, there are, of course, caveats to all of this and nuance to all these conversations. And we're setting standards and we're trying to look ahead, but we don't know how, you get to 3,000 yards or however many he gets, right? But there are enough pieces on this offense today, on April the 30th, for Cam Ward to have a pretty good rookie season. Doesn't mean the team's going to be great. Doesn't mean that he's still not going to throw maybe 15 picks and still take a lot of the risks that we've seen him take in college. But I don't want to do this whole, like, well, he didn't have a chance to be successful because he didn't have anybody around him. Like, he's got a receiver making $22 million and a running back making 10. There are plenty of good quarterbacks in this league that have neither of those things, that have a bunch of young guys that they elevate. And once you are a number one overall pick, fair or unfair, it is your job to make everyone else around you better. And Cam Ward didn't pick when he got drafted. I don't care, though.
Right.
This league isn't fair. You are that guy the second you go number one overall, that card is turned in, regardless of who ESPN was talking about as you walk to the stage.
And he don't give a damn what any of us are saying. I can guarantee
of course not.
you this.
Nor should
this
he.
whole hype train. Well, what do you want us to say? This quarterback's going to be dog crap. This is going to be another crap season. We've been honest with you about, we learned from last year with all the hype moves that they made in free agency and the hype that got, told about Will Levis. We're not doing that this year, and neither is Mike Borgonzi. He's come out and said this is going to be a year of growing. This is not going to be some 9-win season. But at the same time, you got to give the damn quarterback a chance. You got to talk about the upside that he can bring to this team. Isn't that what you want as a Titans fan, is to win games and to have a quarterback that can do it? Don't sit and dog him when he hasn't even walked out on the field. I understand we can't hype him either, but that's what we're saying. These are reasonable expectations that we're looking for in a quarterback this year, that they believed in enough to take him number one overall. I think that it's okay right now to say some of the positives because you want that quarterback to succeed. But Will, you're right. There is never an excuse in the NFL. No matter if you're a rookie, no matter if you're a 12-year vet, not a 12-year vet, but someone like Trevor Lawrence, who's obviously been in it and he's still getting questions about him. They knew that this is going to be a season where it's going to be up and down. But I think that they have surrounded him with enough pieces. And by the way, those pieces also have to go a little bit deeper. You got to get some, value out of these developmental guys that if someone does go down, we could say, they don't have their best receiver. But in this day and age, we have to expect the next man up mentality. And that's something that they've got to have too. They've got to have good depth and continue to develop these guys throughout training camp. So when that does, or if that does happen, that's still not an excuse.
I'm not saying the offense will be super dynamic and super explosive or crazy, because I still think you've got so many unproven wide receivers, but I think it is fair to expect at least league average from this offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
If J.C. Latham takes a step forward, and that's my biggest question mark, is him being a decent, serviceable right tackle again, I think this offense could be somewhat decent, because I think the quarterback could be somewhat decent as a rookie. 615-737-1045. Your reaction. What do you expect out of Cam Ward this year? We'll give you some audio, too. The GM, Mike Borgonzi, talking about adjusting his leadership style, Cam Ward's, to fit a new locker room. Interesting stuff this week from the Titans front office coming up next. RKW Brewed by Scooters Coffee on 104.5 The Zone continues. Wrapping up the first half of the show. What are your expectations for Cam Ward as a rookie quarterback starting for the Titans? 615-737-1045. We go first to Jeremy on the phone lines. Hey, Jeremy.
Hey, good morning, guys. I'll be the first to admit that before Cam Ward got drafted, I was all about them trading that pick. After the video and stuff of him coming out, football player first, like, how can you not get behind that? So I believe this kid has got seems to have the intangibles to want to do right and to be on the field and make the good decisions to lead this team. So, like, I'm for him now. And as far as the expectations go, what are we going to see on the field? Like, don't come out telling us, we're going to be competitive, and then, what was going on out there happening last year, and then expect people to buy into what you're trying to sell. So, if the games are close and they're competitive and it's something that you can stomach to watch and, one-off plays and things like that, because it is going to be some growing pains. So, it's like if you put something out on the field that we can get behind, then those are expectations that I can, be there for, regardless of what the record ends up being. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Fair.
I don't think they're going to make that mistake again of setting the wrong expectations.
No.
I think that's one of the biggest mistakes the Titans made last year was how much they hyped up that roster and that team and that first-year head coach and staff.
And quarterback.
Winning a lot of games. And certainly the quarterback a part of it as well. I don't see them making that decision in terms of press conferences, in terms of what players are saying at camp, in terms of what the front office tells us. I think they learned their lesson there.
I do too. And, unfortunately, you had to see more firings last year. And it's such a part of the business, whether you like it or not. And hopefully they got it right. And, that's yet to be seen. We need to see it proven over the next couple of seasons if everybody gets a couple of seasons to prove that. But I do, and I've mentioned this a couple times, Will, I do appreciate Mike Borgonzi coming out and kind of saying from the start, like since he got here, like this is what realistically we are setting for this season. It's not going to be we're just adding people and it's going to be a great year. Like this is a rebuild. Like we're building a base here. And he's even said it throughout the process of the draft of like, we're getting these players because we have to build a new culture, and Chad Brinker, a part of that conversation as well. Everything that Mike Borgonzi has said to us, he's honestly done from the process of vetting the first round pick to what they are expecting for this upcoming season, which again is not a ton. I appreciate that. And so I'm more like level-headed too, because I'll be the first to raise my hand, Will, last year, that all this hype about some of the free agents they signed and, Will Levis and you get this Mayo deal, which I think was a mistake as well. I really do. I think there was too much crap outside of just going out and playing football that was on Will Levis too, which I just thought, now that I go back and look at it, I'm like, that was not a good look. Yeah.
That team always had a decently high ceiling of maybe being a playoff team, but their floor is the reality of what happened a season ago. They hit their floor and it earned them the number 1 overall pick. Mike Borgonzi talked Monday in the post-draft press conference about Cam Ward's ability to step right into a new locker room and be a leader, but the nuances to that with older guys, with veterans, with adults, quite frankly, and not people his age. I thought the GM had an interesting comment back.
A lot of that was, we talked with him before the draft. He's got great awareness in terms of where he's at. And he knows that, stepping into an NFL locker room, he's going to have to earn the respect of everybody in that locker room. And, first building relationships with everyone, on the team is a big part of it. But that's one of the special things about him that we kind of learned through the process is that he has great awareness. And I think he knows that he has to earn the respect of everyone here.
So that's Mike Borgonzi on Monday. That's a big question that I've had that I think many people have of all rookies, of all guys that are drafted into this league. Kayla, I think it's fair to say with the personality of Cam Ward and just with how he is wired, he is aware that he's not going to walk into the Titans locker room and talk to Kevin Zeitler and Calvin Ridley the way he was talking to Francis Mauigoa and Xavier Restrepo last season.
Man, he's the reason why I fell in love with Cam Ward, the person, is you just knew like he's different. And you said wired different, right? I always remember Quandre Diggs, his cousin, telling me in the locker room last season, like he was just born different. Like he took it that far to say,
Really?
look,
Yeah.
Kayla, he's just born different. Like it's kind of simple. He knows like his surroundings, Will. Like he's aware. I like to use that word aware. He's going to be an aware rookie, no matter if he's the quarterback or not. I think he's going to know the situations he's walking into. Like, let me be honest with this. Like a guy like Jeffrey Simmons, who is the leader of this team right now and has had a lot put on him, whether you like him or not, fans, he has had to take on that leadership, whether he liked it or not, because he's been the longest tenured guy here for a minute. And so I think he has, a good relationship with Will Levis. I think Will Levis is his guy. And I think Cam Ward, that's one of the guys that he's going to have to earn Jeffrey Simmons' respect. And it's not just something you can come in there and say, hey, I'm the new quarterback in town, follow me. That's not how that goes with that type of relationship. He has to prove it on the field when he's in practices. And it might take a minute with some of these guys, Will. But what I'm confident in is Cam Ware is aware of that. Like some guys might fall in line if they're a little younger. Some guys, he's going to have to prove it in the film room, in the meeting rooms. And by the way, he has to build a relationship with these guys in the locker room, Will, which is a lot different from the field. It's okay to be a Cam Ward friend or buddy or, laughing it up in the locker room and then getting to work on the field. He's got to be a likable guy, too.
Coming up, Titans Radio's executive producer, Rhett Bryan, will join us. An hour early. The voice of the Vols, Mike Keith, coming up at 9:20 this morning. We'll dive into the draft class, get a scouting report on all of the new Titans and some of the undrafteds that need to be on your radar as well. That and more with Rhett Bryan next on 104.5 The Zone.
We've got a huge announcement from Two Rivers Ford. Just saying, Two Rivers Ford is now offering employee pricing for everyone. That means you pay what they pay on almost every new Ford on the lot. And at Two Rivers Ford, what you see is always what you get. They don't do things like add expensive accessories or tack on service packages to increase the price of the vehicle. Two Rivers Ford is upfront and honest every single time, and now they're offering you employee pricing. There's no better time to buy American. There is no better dealership than Two Rivers Ford. Locally owned and operated for over 40 years. Home of the non-commissioned sales team also, and now home to employee pricing for everyone. From America, for America. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.
We all we all do live here in Nashville right now. We also love living in Nashville.
We love
There's
being
so
part
many
of the
things to
moments
do
that
in
matter,
terms of what to do.
which is why we're
Sometimes
announcing
I feel
employee
like
pricing
that is
for
not
everyone.
when it comes to
You pay
real estate
what we
agent
pay.
that you wanna
Employee
trust.
pricing at Two Rivers
That's why you
Ford.
need to check out my friend
Locally
Bryan
owned,
Gallerini.
American
Trust
made.
him. He has years of experience. He's going to know all the different neighborhoods in Middle Tennessee and care about your buying or selling needs. In fact, Bernie guarantees to sell your home in 30 days or less, or he's just going to buy it from you. Finding the right home, we all know this. If you've been through the process, it takes time. And for Charisse, that meant 6 months of searching for the perfect place. That's where Bernie Gallerini Real Estate made all the difference. From day one, the team was patient, answered every question of hers, making the entire process smooth and stress-free. So when Charisse was ready to actually find a home, she settled on it, and it was perfect. Bernie is the only real estate agent in Nashville recommended by Barbara Corcoran of Shark Tank, and you can give him a call today to get started. His cell phone, that's where you can call him, 615-428-2644. That's 615-428-2644, or go to BernieGallerini.com.
Good morning, 8 a.m. on the dot. From 104.5 The Zone Studios, I am Justin Hawkins. The Tennessee Titans made a couple moves yesterday. They terminated the contracts of offensive guard Arlington Hambright and offensive tackle Isaiah Prince. Also, sometimes having the top pick can have its perks outside of the NFL draft. It means having the first choice in the waiver wire. Yesterday, the Titans were awarded 2 players, outside linebacker Titus Leo and safety Mark Perry. In other NFL news, the Minnesota Vikings and edge rusher Andrew Van Ginkel reached an agreement on Tuesday on a one-year, $23 million contract extension per his agents Drew and Jason Rosenhaus. Van Ginkel is coming off his first Pro Bowl selection and a career-high 11.5 sacks last season. Also, the Kansas City Chiefs are exercising the fifth-year options for both of their 2022 first-round draft picks, cornerback Trent McDuffie and defensive end George Karlaftis. McDuffie's projected salary for 2026 is $13.6 million, and Karlaftis will come in at $15.2 million. Today, you can join 3HL live from Geodis Park for Tennessee's Big Orange Caravan this afternoon from 3 to 6 p.m. Tune in to hear exclusive interviews from Tennessee athletics such as head coaches Josh Heupel, Rick Barnes, Kim Caldwell, athletic director Danny White, and the new voice of the Tennessee Vols, Mike Keith, who will be on the show this morning at 9:20. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you have to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
RKW brewed by Scooters Coffee on 104.5 The Zone. Locations all around Middle Tennessee, Rivergate, Smyrna, Brentwood, White House, or Mount Juliet. You can check them out on the Scooters Coffee mobile app as well. Make sure you download that. Order ahead. Save $2 off your first mobile order. Alongside Kayla Anderson, I'm Will Bowling. Justin Hawkins is our producer. With Ramon out this morning. Hope to get him back later on in the week. And in studio, a little early this morning. We appreciate him being flexible with us. Rhett Bryan, the executive producer of Titans Radio. After a job well done, Rhett, for Titans Radio's draft coverage. Loved it last week. Excellent stuff as always.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
Collective effort there. Coach Mack drives the engine of it, and I'm just trying to follow along and study and learn and be good. And of course, Amy Wells did a really fine job, and all the her part of preparation and all of the content turned out. And then we ended up having Taylor Zarzer on. We had him on in the pre-draft hour Thursday night. And then we both said, Amy and I said, hey, listen, when you're on the field and you're done, because they did a live interview with a link from Green Bay with Cameron Ward, he and Matt Rogers. And by the way, the field was packed down there.
Yeah, it was.
Like 5,000-6,000 people. Anyway, said, hey, when you get done, come back up here and hop on with us. We'll have fun. And it was the first indication that things are going to be okay.
Nice.
It's he's a great dude, but it worked out. And we just kind of bounced back and forth. And we didn't listen. Some people said, well, why don't you have him on your draft coverage? Well, first of all, he hasn't moved here yet. Second of all, why would I want him to go here, study, and go?
Right.
If he's not prepared, but I knew as many years as he's called games on the SEC network, he's going to see. There was 15 guys taken Thursday night alone. I think 79 through the 3 days of the draft. So he's going to have some knowledge to bring, and obviously he'll be more involved next trip around the sun when we do this. But yeah, I thought I was pleased with how things turned out.
Nice.
And I like this draft class. I like the fact even more that the Titans are happy with it.
Yeah,
I think they've done their homework in this.
Well, we'll dive into the draft picks. We'll go pick by pick with Rhett beyond Cam Ward, obviously, because Cam Ward well documented. But on that front, Rhett, we've been talking a lot this morning about the expectations, the standards, and what Cam could be as a rookie. I will say one thing. In the 6 days it's been now since Cam got drafted, it has been cool watching this fan base kind of fall in love with their new quarterback. And whether it's the cargo pants and the wired headphones getting off the private jet, whether it's the understated wardrobe, obviously dress how you want, be who you want to be. But I think just this fan base learning about who Cam the person is and the chip on his shoulder and how big that chip is. It's been fun to watch this group of fans here in Middle Tennessee embrace their new quarterback.
Yes, and I think just his natural persona helped endear the fan base to that. I mean, you can't help but like the guy when he tells you, "Hey, all I really care about is, I care about my family, and I really care about football and fishing." And I'm like, "Well, welcome home."
Dude, him and Travis Hunter both. They both have that in common.
Yeah.
Right.
Crazy.
So, but yeah, I don't know if you had a chance to listen to the OTP that Amy Wells did with him. And it's only like 10 minutes.
Right.
So it's an easy digest. But just hearing him, and I told Amy and Mac this on Monday, and I'm not trying to throw comparisons, but I said just hearing him speak, and he has a country charm to him and a quiet confidence in that type of setting. It reminded me of just sitting there talking to Steve McNair. That's the kind of way he carries himself a little bit. But the thing that I took away from that, too, first of all, he comes from a family of athletes. I mean, his dad's a football player, mom's basketball coach, sisters in track and field. He said, we haven't had family game night in about 5 years. He said, because it just got out of hand. He said, so, Monopoly or whatever, not your typical family board game night. It's just, we had to shut it down.
Yeah.
But I did like in this interview, he talks about, what he brings to the table and what his style is and how he knows he's going to have to earn the respect of the veterans in the locker room. But he said, I'm not afraid to get in somebody's ass about something. Like, hey,
so
accountable.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. For sure.
And he expects to be held the same way in the same regard. So, I'm very hopeful in how all that turns out because let's face it, and I haven't done, what do they have, 75 players on the roster right now?
Mm-hmm. Yep, right at it.
The average age right now is got to be, this is a young team. You take away the Calvin Ridleys and the Tyler Lockett's and a couple of others, and the median age has got to be way down there. Because, the longest tenured Titans are Jeffrey Simmons and Amani Hooker.
Isn't that wild?
So, that's the 2019 draft. That hasn't been that long ago. So, but yeah, the more I see, read, hear, watch, whatever about Cam Ward, I can certainly understand why they made him the guy, and hope springs eternal. As of Monday, I think he was number 2 rookie jersey in sales across the league behind Travis Hunter. And Duval, they'll run out of money, so it'll end up being Cam. So sorry, I'm going to throw shade on Jacksonville wherever I can. I can't help it.
It's easy to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, all they got is that and jumbo shrimp stuff to buy. They have no other teams down there, so there's not really enough to split their attention to anything.
Well,
nothing else to do.
There's a weird dynamic. Y'all, you played me that clip of James Gladstone, their new general manager,
Cringe.
talking about Travis Hunter. I'm like, what? What?
Yeah. Is that Chat GPT? We were joking. Is that Chat GPT?
It sounds like either AI or like when the youth pastor gets a chance to preach in the big service is what it sounds like.
That too. And that's just kind of and the whole Liam Cohen thing, he interviewed for the head coach and, said, look, I'll consider it if you get rid of Trent Baalke, and he'd already agreed verbally to come back as the OC for Tampa. There's some weird stuff going on here. But, I like the moves that the football powers at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park did. They went into this draft with 6 picks, none in the 3rd round, and came out with 9 players with a couple of trades. And I know we're going to get into all that, but when Seattle came calling and you had a chance to pick up a 3rd rounder, they weren't going to pass up on that because when status quo, you were pick 35 to 103. That is a long time to watch guys come off the board and you having to go, all right, he's off the board. He's off our board. He's off our board. So, yeah, I think there's some value there, and I can't wait till they officially announce who some of these undrafteds are, because there's
some good ones.
I'm always interested by these guys and what their stories are.
What does it mean, Rhett? You just spoke about being able to trade back, and they were comfortable with maybe missing out on, a guy like Luther Burden who was still there. They were okay with trading down because they've, again, set their board. They have expectations for what they want culture-wise. And I'm not saying Luther Burden's a bad guy, but it has been made clear, and they've said after the draft, we are also looking for culture builders. Like, this first class is really setting up for our future as well.
And in terms of that part of it, yeah, it's a foundational draft. Because all you do is look through these guys' bios, they are littered with accolades, and more importantly, being team captains where they came from.
Right.
And then in the age of the transfer portal, if you're a team captain in 2 or 3 spots, you got to be a solid person, because they just don't your teammates vote on that. You earn that. And so, in hearing Mike Borgonzi Monday, he said, I feel like enough of those guys in the locker room, that is what will cultivate and create the culture on top of the people that we have there.
Sure.
I love it. It's certainly they were consistent with it, Rhett, through the entire process. It does feel like there is maybe a pretty decent expectation around Cam Ward. We were talking about this earlier this morning. Vegas put his over-under on 3,200 yards, 19 and a half touchdowns, 12 interceptions. I think when you look around this roster, Rhett, we don't have to have the conversation of like, all right, he's got to elevate all these guys who are just no names. Like, you're paying a left tackle, you're paying a running back, you're paying Calvin Ridley. It doesn't mean that everything's going to be perfect and you're immediately going to be averaging 30 points a game this year, but I don't think Titans fans should be scared of having some expectations and having some hope that Cam Ward can step in and be solid for them as a rookie.
Well, I would agree to that. Agree with that to a certain point. Here's a couple things that I think get overlooked in this. First of all, I thought they were just going to draft all offense in day 3. The first 4 selections were offense.
Going that way.
And immediately you draw a line to, well, they're going to help the quarterback. Well, that's true. But they need more than 18 points a game average.
Boom.
Yeah, they do.
Boom.
They
In the
do.
AFC, in the wild, wild west, that's all of those quarterbacks and offenses, you have to have more production than that. And the other thing is, I think they've got to find a way to peel back a layer of him putting balls in places where he shouldn't. Just enough of that, but still keeping the Cam Ward that I think we're going to see. Because when you look at 33 touchdowns scored and 28 turnovers, minus 16 in turnover ratio, can't do that.
Right.
And 37% on third down, you can't do that. And this was a collective effort to try to improve that. And listen, the other thing I would say about the hope part of it, and I'm not trying to tamp that down, they still need a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And you guys have already covered it last hour with them already starting to pick some guys off the waiver wire, because that is a luxury of having the worst record in the league and having a terrible year. This is the fruits of your labor or lack thereof in this term. You get the first overall pick, and you get the top pick of the litter in the waiver wire up through the 3rd week going into game 3 of the regular season. So they've got a few months to add a player here and there. And I think that's one of the reasons why, money-wise and roster-wise, and obviously they haven't officially announced these UDFAs.
Sure.
But anyway, I think that's something to watch, because invariably there are cuts post-June 1st and, roster cuts towards the end of the preseason where I think they can add some things, providing that it fits what they're doing, or they can improve.
With Rhett, Bryan coming up, we'll look more into the full draft class. I'm also curious, talking to Rhett, about some of these unofficial, undrafted signings the Titans are reportedly making. The high-impact guys. We've talked about Xavier Restrepo. Who else of the undrafteds is notable, is interesting to Rhett, Bryan? We'll continue the conversation with Rhett after this. Hey, it's Will Bowling. You've probably been looking for cars and see the words buy here, pay here, and it makes you think it's not really a place I want to go. And most of those dealers, they have a certain reputation. But I'm here to tell you about the place that has a different kind of reputation, the best reputation. That's Nolensville Road Auto Mart. And they're different for a few simple reasons. They have been doing business in Nashville for 61 years. Nashville natives that only sell clean title cars under 12 grand. So if you're new to town and you need a place to trust, they got you. Maybe you need that first car for the new driver in your family. Nolensville Road Auto Mart can do that as well. 615-242-1279 is the number. And if you don't just want to take my word for it, check out the Google reviews. They are excellent as well. One location on Nolensville Road, close to Thompson Lane. They will get you in and out in an hour or less. Flexibility, transparency, and honesty. That's why I recommend Nolensville Road Auto Mart. Give them a call at 615-242-1279. RKW on 104.5 The Zone, brewed by Scooters Coffee. Locations at Rivergate, Smyrna, Brentwood, White House, or Mount Juliet. 615-737-1045, the number. Rhett, Bryan in studio at Titans Radio. Voice of the Vols, Mike Keith, coming up in an hour at 9:20 with the Big Orange. That's right, with the Big Orange Caravan in town today, which 3HL will be live at Geoda's Park this afternoon. Josh Heupel, Rick Barnes, Kim Caldwell, Danny White, a who's who of Vols. So stay tuned for that throughout the day. Rhett, looking through this draft class, there are a lot of names that we had discussed with you in the pre-draft process, including Oluwafemi Oladejo, as we begin with everyone not named Cam Ward and diving deeper into who the Titans added to the roster over the weekend. Well documented now. I think people more familiar with his story, Rhett, the converted inside linebacker to a very traitsy and toolsy edge rusher with a lot of athleticism, but not as much production. In getting to know him and his story more, Rhett, what stands out about him and what do you like about him added to that edge rusher? Rhett?
Well, that he is a long player. He's 6'3" and change, 259, arms 33 and 3/8, wing 82 and an 8.
Wow.
36 and a half inch vert, 10 foot broad, despite being that big. 13 and a half tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks in his last year. And I think part of it is, and it's a reverse story of some of these other draftees that we were looking at and all the process leading up to, is like Jihad Campbell from Alabama was moved inside from, like, there's a log jam of talent that moved him in. You know, you got some guys moving in and out in this second level of the defense, and he's one of these that moved to the outside. I can certainly see why they liked him at that point. I think it surprised some people because, you know, they trade from 35 to 52 and pick up an 82 with Seattle. And they were like, well, this should be I think we said all along, we felt like after free agency, that second round pick, wherever it ended up being, was going to be more than likely either a wide receiver or an edge pass rusher, because you have to have an edge pass rusher in this. By the way, Yoruba language, which is what his family speaks, because they're from the western part of Africa, western part of Nigeria, in the Congo region. His name in Yoruba means God loves me.
Nice.
Love that.
But all indications seems like a nice prospect. And I'm interested to just kind of see him get out on the practice field and do some things. I mean, they're a couple of weeks away from rookie minicamp, but the fact that he was able to move in and out tells me he does have some level of versatility. He's one of those in that next, and I forget, I didn't bring the Rhett draft board in here to see where we had him, but I think that's about where we had him, was like the bottom of the second pod.
Dane Brugler had him 64 on his board. I think the consensus big board that compiles all these, you know, big national public people together, I think had him 57. Titans took him at 52. Okay. So about right, considering the need you had based on where the board put him. Kevin Winston Jr., however, Rhett, might be the best value the Titans got in the entire draft.
Really like this pick.
In the third round, Dane Brugler had him ranked 83rd. Titans drafted him 82nd. Consensus Big Board had him ranked even better than that. We heard Todd McShay earlier this morning, Rhett, say that without the ACL injury, he might be the number 2 safety, and the only guy ahead of him would have been Malachi Starks at the safety position. He said, I would have had him ahead of Nick Emanwari of South Carolina had he been healthy.
And I think part of it is just his style of play, because he's a thumper.
Yes.
Physical guy. And, I think a lot of folks would say if he was not taken where he was because of the ACL, he would have been an early night 2 selection. But there's also a connection that's an obvious one in that he went to the same high school that Denard Wilson went to, DeMatha Catholic there in Columbia, Maryland. Here's the one thing I like about him is he just turned 21 in December. He won't be 22 until nearly the end of his rookie season. But, he played in the opener for Penn State. and got out there in warm-ups and felt a tweak in week 2, tried to play and go. I think he played maybe a series or something, figured out he had an ACL, and that was back in October when he actually had the surgery. So he's pretty far and well removed from that, but 6'1.5", 215, 80 and 7/8 inch wingspan. So he's a long prospect. And this will tell you he's getting better because he did run and do things at his pro day, 4.51 in the 40, 1.51 in his first 10 yards. So there's a initial explosion. And look, that was one of the things that you kind of felt like they were going to take a safety at some point in this because of what they did in free agency. And Amani Hooker needs a running mate back there.
Oh, sure.
So,
and I think with him, Rhett, what I gathered too is you could take this gamble on a guy that maybe recently had an injury because right now it looks like they could have their guys to start the season. If you want to bring him along a little bit, you don't have to instantly put him out here. You mentioned the age. He's young still. This is a piece where I see you really are building for the future, which is also something you saw kind of with the Kansas City models and the Green Bay models. Some of these guys they draft, you're thinking of the future too, not just instant.
Well, he fits the bill of the physical and pretty fast part of it because that's just been an earmark of, they talked about that all offseason, and he does fit that bill. But I liked him in this process, and, I mean, he told us at the podium at the Combine that, he said, I'm not going to be testing here this week, but I'm very close. I'll probably do something at my pro day. And turns out he did a few things there.
Yeah, ran a 4.51.
Yeah.
This pro day.
Yeah, it's not bad. Coming off of that.
Not bad at all.
And in the 1.5s in his first 10. So, I mean, the initial, and coming off an ACL.
Yeah.
So,
it's a good sign.
It'd be really good.
Yep.
When it comes to now some of these skill positions that they got into in round 4, let's start with Chimere Dike. My initial reaction, too, is, oh, okay, like this might be a little early for Chimere Dike, but others who have really done some vetting on him, too, fell in love with this guy through the process. Why do you feel like he is a great fit here, and maybe why they got him where they did?
The one thing they mentioned all offseason, speed. Need speed. 4.34 at the Combine. 1.51 in his first 10. 38.5-inch vertical leap. 10.8 broad. 6.82 in the 3-cone drill. Anything under 7 is money. So the short area quickness is there at 6 feet and a half inch, 196 pounds. The thing that I want to go back and look at, because he had 42 catches for 783 and 2 touchdowns, and he's been trouble with drops through his career. More of those coming in his time at Wisconsin. I want to go back and look at the difference of him when Graham Mertz was in the lineup.
Yes.
And DJ Lagway. But listen, I think, as Mac would say, he's not an empty chair. I mean, he was a 1-year starter last year. Inside as a slot guy, almost 60% of the time, outside the rest of the time. So there's some scheme versatility there. But, I mean, his name was called a bunch in all those Florida games we all, tuned in to see. And
totally.
We were actually tuning in to see, okay, who's playing quarterback now, like this and that. Sure. And when DJ Lagway, I'm like, all right, let's see what the guy's got in his first few reps and snaps. And they kept calling Chim Dike. I'm like, okay, might want to take notes on this guy.
Absolutely.
But speed is one thing they've been mentioning. He possesses that. And I feel like the Titans have been looking for a take the top off the defense guy for a minute. And he would fit that bill with that kind of numbers. So, yeah, let's do that.
Mike Berganzi talked a lot Monday about the catch radius of Gunnar Helm and Alec Iomanner, and 2 guys with a little bit of a different skill set. Helm as a guy who led a good Texas offense in receptions this past season with Quinn Ewers at quarterback, and that's an offense that also included Isaiah Bond, the speedster, and Matthew Golden, who is a first-round pick for the Packers. So no empty chairs in that Texas wide receiver room either that have less receptions than Gunnar Helm. And then you have Iomanner, who is a bigger jump ball target, almost like a power forward, the way he can kind of box out defensive backs. And he almost had 300 yards against Colorado. And a certain guy who plays for the Jags now, who was the defensive back in that game covering him in Travis Hunter. In these two guys, Rhett, you get red zone targets, you get bigger bodies and something different than what DK provides.
Well, yeah, because Gunnar Helms, 6'5", 241, wing 79.5, so the radius is there too. Now, he's not the fastest dude. I mean, he ran a 4.84, but he is 6'5" and 241. He had 7.15 in the three-cone short shuttle 4.40, 1.7 in his first 10, but big target. You're right about that part. And didn't have a ton of production, but that wasn't, I mean, obviously 2024 was his big year. But of 79 career catches in college for 1,000 yards, he only had 2 drops. I mean, that's not too shabby. And Iomanor, 6'1", just north of 6'1.5", 206. Wings 78 and 3/8. So again, long arm prospect, 4.44 in the 40. 1.56 in the first 10, 38.5-inch vertical leap, 10.7 broad, 14, little over 14.5 yards per catch in his career with Stanford, and a Canadian guy.
Yeah. Medicine Hat.
Medicine Hat, Alberta, Canada, and that's what about 85 miles north of Montana.
Yeah.
So, and he played primarily the X receiver on the boundary, but this wide receiver room, make no mistake about it, after you get past Calvin Ridley and after you get past Tyler Lockett, it's youth.
Mm-hmm.
Youth.
Young and athletic.
Yeah.
For sure.
Rhett, in terms of the 5th and 6th round picks, just curious is going down that line, who stood out to you with these guys that can maybe make a difference even year one in some capacity?
Well, I like the Jackson Slater selection.
That's a sneaky good
so
one.
Bellevue, Washington, up in your neck of the woods. But yeah, played at Sacramento State, and Jackson Slater's 6'3", 311, hands 10, so he's got great big mitts for hands, 78.5-inch wing, 5.01 in the 40. But that's not what you're asking him to do. 31 reps at 225. And I think the thing with him is he's athletic. 42 starts at left guard for Sac State, 2 at left tackle. But in high school, discus, shot put, javelin.
Like that.
So there's definitely something there. And I think this is a guy that can be a center guard triangle swing player. I think he can help them at center. If Lloyd Cushenberry is not all the way back to, and I know that's asking a lot for a rook to do, but I think that's kind of their idea. If nothing else, depth at the center guard triangle, where you can come in and have a guy come in and do some snaps. Now, Marcus Harris from Cal, listen, go put on the Cal tape and look at that Cal defense. They got some guys in there. I mean, they had 3 or 4 dudes in that defense drafted.
Not a bad defense
Noel
last
Williams.
year. It was actually pretty.
Former Tennessee DC Justin Wilcox out there.
Yeah.
Yes. And Noel Williams, I think, was taken in the 3rd round. Well, his guy on the opposite end, Marcus Harris, pick 183 by the Titans via another trade, this one with the Baltimore Ravens in day 3. But a Portland, Oregon guy. And Marcus, 5'10 and a half, 189. Ran a 4.45 at the combine, but 4.38 at his pro day. 1.55 and 1.57, respectively, at both of those events in the first 10 yards. 36.5-inch vertical leap, 10 broad, 7.13 3-cone. 200 career tackles, 42 pass breakups, 8 picks.
Pretty
So,
good.
as Max
Not
says,
bad.
GPS to the ball. And, started at Oregon State, had some time
With the Idaho
at
Vandals.
Idaho, and then was a one-year guy with Cal. But physicality in that guy's game, just like we talked with Kevin Winston Jr. And then the last pick, Kalel Mullings.
Superman.
He's fascinating to me. Joseph Bonato was talking about that day. He goes, it's Kal-El. I said, I understand the origin, but it's pronounced Kalel.
For him, it's Kalel.
Yeah, for him, it's Kalel. But the guy's a converted linebacker in his time at Michigan.
That's crazy.
So, I mean, this guy's made tackles, but ran for almost 1,000 yards. over 5 yards a carry, 12 touchdowns, and is able to catch it out of the backfield. So you like the physicality and the run style because he was a defensive player first. At, 6'1.5", 226, hands 10, wings 78. Yeah, I like that. And the thing that I like about the move from linebacker to running back is not only the physical style and mindset, but that would translate, you would hope, to being a core special teams player if you were to win yourself in as the third running back, because obviously that's where you're going to make your hay when you're in the back end of a roster, or certainly the undrafteds that have not been officially reported by the team. And there's some of those guys that are interesting. And obviously the one that leads the list is Xavier Restrepo.
Right. Great story.
So, Rhett, quickly on that note, who not named Restrepo could be an impact undrafted free agent? I know we talked a little bit about David Benda, the linebacker out of Texas on this show. The Florida tackle is a guy getting a lot of guaranteed money. Who stands out to you?
Well, I'm always drawn to somebody that is off the radar even more. And I don't know any more about this than what I'm about to tell you, but think about this. In the special teams phase of things, that level and that third phase of the Titans had to improve. And so they get John Bones Fossil from the Cowboys, one of the best to do it in the business. And I can't help but think this guy is a guy maybe he's found to be the team's returner. Virgil Lemons, cornerback by trade, West Florida Argonaut. West Florida is in Pensacola, Florida. He's originally was at UNC Pembroke and then transferred there. 5'11", 190 pounds, played at St. Thomas Aquinas High School. Led the nation in college football last year in punt return yardage average per return at just over 25 per return. Has a 100-yard kickoff return for a touchdown, but he had 24 punt returns for 602 yards last year.
Dang.
Coming from a smaller school, it's hard to get info about, what did he run? Did he have a pro day? What is all that? And also taking into consideration, okay, who was his competition at that level?
True.
Is there anything that translates? So Virgil Lemons, I'm like, let's just see what Virgil Lemons, because I'm interested.
Exactly.
Let's make lemonade.
Let's make lemonade and let's score in the third phase. No, you can find him online at dadjoke.com, or you can always find
Maybe you could
Will
spike
Bowling.
the lemonade at some point.
Yes, that would be good, and that would be a touchdown in this case. But yeah, I'm always fascinated by the guys that aren't selected and are trying to make their way in this thing. And obviously with Big Homie here, who's not here this morning, get well soon, Ramon. But, knowing that was his path, I'm always fascinated by that, and just to see what these guys' background stories are.
There's always a few that come out, make a name for themselves.
Never know.
Yep.
No doubt. Rhett Bryan with us in studio this morning, an hour early. Appreciate you, Rhett. Good to see you, sir.
Thanks,
I'm
Rhett.
glad to do it. Hour 4 on the way.
That is right. Voice of the Vols, Mike Keith, joining us coming up at 9:20
Caught yourself
this
there, didn't you?
morning.
I know.
I did catch myself.
Well, it's only been 26 years, so
That's right.
old habits hard to break.
The broadcaster I've listened to the most in my life, no doubt about it. We'll dive more into headlines when we come back. Matt Miller has a list of his top 100 favorite picks in the NFL draft. There is one that is his number one that the Titans could have made, but an NFC team made instead. We'll talk about that next. RKW 104.5 The Zone is brewed by Scooter's Coffee, 615-737-1045. NFL draft television ratings significantly different than they were last year. We'll have more on that coming up for you in just a few minutes as we begin hour 4. Again, voice of the Vols, Mike Keith, set to join us at 9:20 this morning. ESPN's Matt Miller with a piece this morning on his top 100 favorite picks. That's a lot of picks to
It is a lot of
go down
picks.
and sit down to say.
Dang.
This was my, how do you come up with the difference between the number 57 pick and 58? Couldn't never tell you. Luther Burden is his favorite pick in the class. Matt Miller writing, he was my top wide receiver in the class. Says, I'm counting Travis Hunter as a two-way player. Says, as he landed in a great situation with the Bears and new coach Ben Johnson, his yards after catch ability is terrific. Likely starts at slot with DJ Moore and Rome Odunze flanking him. He thrived in that alignment at Missouri. Kayla, will Luther Burden live up to that hype? Do you see him hitting his ceiling with Ben Johnson, the head coach, with Caleb Williams, the quarterback in Chicago?
Ooh, this is what's a little difficult for me, Will, because when that pick was made, I instantly tweeted, well, Caleb Williams has no excuse now not to elevate his play. But then I thought about it too, Will. There's a lot of mouths to feed there in Chicago now. And Luther being one of those guys that wants the ball and, is in a way a diva wide receiver. While I think it was a great pick because he was there and the value is incredible, I just don't know how much number-wise he can get in that first year when Caleb's going to have so many mouths to feed. Remember, they picked the tight end in the first round as well.
Colston Loveland out of Michigan.
Yeah, not the one we maybe thought they were going to pick, but again, another mouth to feed. I think he'll have a good rookie year, Will, but I don't think will be numbers off the chart for that reason.
I think it's a pretty good fit. To be honest with you, Chicago has remade that entire offensive line. They have taken it personally, how bad they were on the offensive line last year. I think they've wanted to get more help at running back. They stick with Roshan Johnson backing up DeAndre Swift. So it's certainly not Montgomery and Gibbs like what Ben Johnson had in Detroit, but you still have two able-bodied backs that can get the job done within that. You are right, though. There's not really much of an excuse for Caleb Williams. I'm very curious to see how much Ben Johnson adjusts what he does offensively to Caleb. Caleb Williams, a world of a different skill set than what Jared Goff was.
Yes.
No doubt about it, but something I'm very interested in. That Chicago, to me, might be one of the most interesting teams in football this upcoming season. When you have the mix of young talent, they have given up a lot of draft capital to bring in a lot of help on that offensive line in terms of just overpaying for guys. Mm-hmm. I mean, to be quite honest with you, and what they gave up for the Rams vet, Jonah Jackson, to kind of fix the interior of that offensive line, and Joe Tooney they bring in as well from Kansas City. So they're a fascinating team in a really good division because there are no free wins in the NFC North. Heck, they were kind of the free win for everyone else in the NFC North last year.
And expectations will for them still sky high. I mean, this is what Chicago continues to say. Like, we need to fix these things. And you fire a head coach and you bring in Ben Johnson. And now you get the weapons for Caleb Williams. To me, like, there's not many excuses now. Like, you need to elevate your team at this point.
Yeah. Was there a pick that you loved for any team? If you're going through thinking, that was my favorite favorite pick, any round, any team out there, what caught your attention last weekend?
Man, I don't have this up in front of me, but just coming off the top of my mind in terms of, I liked the Travion Henderson pick. I said it yesterday. I really like him in terms of the type of running back he is. And I know Quinshon Judkins, who played with him up at Ohio State last year, they were kind of right by each other in terms of the draft. But I do think going up to New England, I like the fit up there. Anything that you can help in terms of the young quarterback and Drake May there, the run game is also going to help. It's not just getting him weapons, it's also establishing a run game. This guy can be your starter day one.
To me, there were two that stuck out. First, I think Atlanta, with the number 15 pick, got the steal of the entire draft by getting Jalen Walker there.
Absolutely.
Atlanta never has pass rushers, ever. And
they got two.
They finally got one in Jalen Walker. James Pierce will be kind of the secondary guy to that. But pass rusher in a 3-4 defense, what he can bring you off the edge, the versatility of who he is in coverage, and just the different things that you can do with Jalen Walker. I think he is number one for me. I think the other one is Mason Graham in Cleveland. And the thing that Myles Garrett needed, the thing that Jim Schwartz and his defense needed, was an anchor to benefit from Myles Garrett's attention that he gets. And I love what the Browns did in the first round and with their second pick as well with Quinshon Judkins and Schlesinger coming in. Like, the Browns got 3 starters right at the top of this draft. And regardless of what they did in terms of picking Dylan Gabriel in the third round and double dipping and taking Shedeur Sanders, I think is ridiculous. I think it screams loser franchise, which is what they are. But I think they did the right thing because they have got needs. They have got to pick up the pieces of the Deshaun Watson debacle and Mason Graham pairing up with Myles Garrett. I mean, this is one of the best defensive lines in football the second he puts on a uniform.
And they were that confident because they made the trade to do it, right? That's what they really felt like they wanted to do. And that's how confident they are in adding him to that defense. Will, I also liked this one. I guess I'm talking a lot of running backs. I'm upping the value of them. I actually liked the Chargers taking Marion Hampton out of North Carolina because that is a Harbaugh type of player.
Very much so.
And I think the
straight
future,
line runner,
right?
big guy.
And can help out. Again, you talk about Herbert helping out the quarterback. It can't just be at the wide receiver spot. Having a run game for the future, too, is important. I think Hampton is one of the best in this class.
Justin, what you got?
Yeah, so the Kansas City Chiefs do this every year. And they go and get Tennessee defensive lineman Omar Norman Lott. And I really love this pick for them. As much as I hate it, I love it. And it's not just catering to Tennessee fans, but I love it in the fact that you're pairing him next to Chris Jones. And it's a really good pick. 6'3", had 4 sacks last year, 5.5 sacks the year prior with Tennessee. It's a really good pick. And then, of course, if you want to go later, the pick Jalen Royals. Really good draft from the Kansas City Chiefs, in my opinion.
I like it. I think for Omar, that's the dream scenario for him to go to.
Right?
No doubt. 615-737-1045 is our number. Hour 4 on the way. Mike Keith coming up at 9:20. Against his will, Dane Brugler gave us a 2026 mock draft. We can get into that. Plus, television ratings for the draft skyrocketing. Shedeur Sanders says, "You're welcome." We'll talk about it next.
Good morning. It's 9:01 from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I'm Justin Hawkins. The Tennessee Titans made a couple moves yesterday, terminating the contracts of offensive guard Arlington Hambright and offensive tackle Isaiah Prince. They also were awarded 2 players off the waiver wire with outside linebacker Titus Leo and safety Mark Perry. The deadline for NFL teams to pick up the 5th-year option of first-round draft picks in 2022 draft is tomorrow, May 1st, and those decisions this morning are rolling in. Per Jordan Schultz, the Eagles are exercising the 5th-year option on defensive tackle Jordan Davis, locking in a guaranteed $12.9 million for next season. Davis started every game for the last 2 seasons. Also, the Jaguars are not going to be picking up the 5th-year option for linebacker Devin Lloyd, per ESPN's Jimmy Fowler. He's now set to hit the 2026 free agency. Lloyd last season had 113 tackles, 2 sacks, 1 interception, and 4 pass deflections. Remember, today you can join 3HL live from Geodis Park for Tennessee's Big Orange Caravan this afternoon from 3 to 6 p.m. Tune in to hear exclusive interviews from Tennessee athletics such as head coaches Josh Heupel, Rick Barnes, Kim Caldwell, athletic director Danny White, and the new voice of the Tennessee Vols, Mike Keith, who will join the show coming up in 20 minutes. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you have to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
RKW, brewed by Scooters Coffee on 104.5 The Zone. You can visit them in Rivergate, Smyrna, Brentwood, White House, or Mount Juliet. Or you can also make sure you get that Scooters Coffee mobile app. That's an and, not an or. You want to get the mobile app, order ahead, save $2 off your first mobile order. Kayla Anderson and Will Bowling with you this morning. Jay Hawk, Justin Hawkins is our producer. Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll be joined by the voice of the Vols, Mike Keith, as Tennessee brings the Big Orange Caravan to Nashville this afternoon at beautiful Geodis Park. 3HL will be there. You want to make sure you are locked into all of those interviews and analysis and conversations coming up later on today. I'm interested, Kayla, in the television spectacle that was the 2025 NFL Draft, because I feel like I am not like most people. I was more encouraged to watch ESPN because of how crazy Mel Kiper was being about Shedeur Sanders, because I thought it was incredible television. Maybe I am like most people, though, because Shedeur Sanders' drop led to a massive ratings boost for the NFL Draft. Numbers coming out yesterday for the 3rd and final day of the draft. It is the 2nd most watched draft on record and the most watched day 3 of the NFL Draft on record. 43% increase between ESPN, ABC, NFL Network, ESPN Deportes, and digital channels. 43% up from last year. The total number of viewers was up 27% over last year. The 3-day total, the 2nd most watched draft ever, only trailing the 2020 draft. I know people are tired of Shedeur Sanders, but the numbers speak for themselves. A lot of people tune in more to the draft because of Shedeur Sanders.
Numbers do not lie. That is absolutely truth right there. And it is hard, Will, to see numbers increase or be the biggest in that day 3, because a lot of people at that point are not really glued to their televisions like they are obviously in day 1 and in that 2nd and 3rd round. It's kind of like the picks come quick, right? It's a different type of coverage in that day 3. So for numbers to be like that, that's incredible. And obviously because Shedeur Sanders did not go into until the 5th round of the draft, obviously landing in Cleveland. And so people were on not pins and needles, but they were probably paying more attention at that point. Hell, well, I was getting texts from my family back in Washington and California saying, so where's Shedeur going? Where's, and we got the memes going on and all that stuff because everybody is interested. And that was, even if you weren't a diehard sports fan, it was something that was being nationally talked about the whole weekend.
It was theater.
Yeah.
It really was. And even though Mel Kiper had some pretty inflammatory things to say. This whole idea that ESPN has Mel Kiper ruined now. His credibility has gotten. No. I think ESPN is thrilled with Mel Kiper's performance over the weekend.
Yeah.
Thrilled.
They love the entertainment value.
Oh, yeah.
And people,
no question.
If they didn't watch it live, they probably went and found a clip of it.
Yeah. I mean, if Shedeur Sanders doesn't hit, if he ends up being bad, then yeah, I think some of his credibility will take a little bit of a hit. But we got to be honest here. We're talking about draft analysts. We should talk about them in the same way we talk about hitters in baseball. If you have a 40% clip, if you bat 350, you're doing a pretty good job as a draft analyst, because the most surefire talents often do not live up to their potential because there are coaches that can affect their potential and their ceilings and floors. There are injuries. There are organizational decisions. There are owners who, crazy enough, sometimes do some things that are bold or not good for the team or for the players. So even the best draft analysts probably miss more than they hit. Mm-hmm. However, as public as this one was, I think either way, we're going to be keeping score on the way Shedeur Sanders plays and how he does and who was on what side a year from now.
And he was going down fighting and kicking in terms of Mel Kiper.
He sure was.
He was going down fighting, screaming and kicking.
A mock draft is out for 2026 at the Athletic. So Dane Brugler, funny enough, even put out a tweet saying, against my will, I have put out a way too early 2026 mock draft. Fair or foul, Arch Manning being the mock draft for 2026 going number 1 overall to the New Orleans Saints in Dane Brugler's exercise.
I mean, look, you know my opinion. I don't hate Arch. I just want to see Arch play a season before we take him number 1 overall. But he is a quarterback, and we saw it last year with Carson Beck. And when you have a quarterback, especially with a guy like Arch Manning, who has been kind of in the waiting for a while, has the name attached to it, but also obviously the talent. He doesn't have just the name. There's no surprise that he is there at the top for the taking right now. I just personally want to let the young man play football and see what he can do for a full season. But it does not surprise me because you have the combination of the quarterback, the name, and all the other 5-star stuff that comes along with it. I understand.
I think we've seen enough of him to know that the hype is real. Mm-hmm. I don't think this is going to be a DJ Uiagalelei or heck, even a Nico Imaliava.
Sure.
In him, having these astronomically high expectations and not meeting them. We know enough of him as a proven commodity to see the athleticism, to see the touch on his passes, to see the arm strength. Yes, there is a lot that Arch Manning needs to prove, but I'm totally okay with him being the projected number 1 overall pick today. What I think is the more interesting conversation right now, because let's face it, the expectations are what they are for Arch, is who else is with him in that discussion. And I'm starting to see one name now, Kayla, rise above the rest. Lenore Sellers is the number 2 projected pick in the 2026 NFL draft from Dane Brugler. Okay. I saw Ben Solak of ESPN put it out there. He does this thing every year where at the end of every draft, he'll put out a tweet in a thread saying something that he thinks is just a declarative sentence about the next class. He said, hello, 2026 NFL draft, Lenore Sellers is QB1. There are a lot of people growing on this because I think Drew Aller could be another Carson Beck. I think Drew Aller, with some of the mistakes that he makes, now granted, he's going to have a really good group of receivers to throw to this year with a guy they brought in from USC, the wide receiver from Troy, Trevor Pena from Syracuse. I'm high on Penn State, but Drew Aller very famously lost Penn State their playoff game that would have allowed them to play for a national championship because he threw a pick, because he couldn't take care of the football. Lenore Sellers, though, is really interesting, Caleb, because he has got the athleticism and the overall talent and ability to potentially be a number 1 overall pick next year.
And we saw, obviously, plenty of that flashes this last year. I mean, heck, he was really good for South Carolina and helped, get that team some wins. But obviously, the defense a big part of that program last year as well. But I think you see something in him also, staying there. They gave him a deal. They obviously believe in this young man. It is up to him to elevate his play, which he's going to have to do still. Like, he needs to continue to get better. But yeah, the athleticism in this day and age, with what we're seeing when the NFL looks at quarterbacks, they not only, need the accuracy and all that stuff, but it's not just about being in the pocket nowadays. Like, you have to have some athleticism to you. And while Cam Ward isn't like crazy athletic, he's athletic enough and also can be that pocket passer where teams are willing to roll the dice on you. But if in this case, he can continue to elevate his play at South Carolina this last year, I'm right with you. And we're talking about a guy, too, that's still very young in terms of being a quarterback in college.
Just his second year as starter next season for him. So a deeper quarterback class, according to Dan Brugler, as of today, with a full season still to play. So Arch Manning would go 1. Sellers would go 2 to the Jets.
Okay.
Which, by the way, can you imagine Arch Manning going to the Saints?
That'd be crazy.
The Saints have not drafted a quarterback in the first round since they drafted his dad. Or not his dad, his, I guess, grandfather.
Grandfather, yeah.
And Archie in 1971 would be, those people would go nuts.
Arch goes marching in.
Drew Aller goes to the Browns at 5 in Dane Brugler's 2026 mock draft. But there are even more quarterbacks that go in this thing. Garrett Nussmeier, 16 to the Steelers. Would be a very Steelers kind of quarterback.
For sure.
Fernando Mendoza would go 27th to the Rams, the Indiana quarterback.
Oh.
Moving forward into this season, the former Cal signal caller, who is a big quarterback in the transfer portal. So those are all the first-round quarterbacks. You would have 1 in the teens, 1 in the 20s, so 2 there, and then 3 in the top 5. So 5 quarterbacks projected to be first-round talents as of today going into next season.
And I always love it because, again, we do this like the minute the draft is over because this is the life we live in terms of, the college and then the NFL quarterback. But it is always fascinating, too. While you want all these young men to be elevating their game, there is always one that disappoints.
That's true.
And that's always the almost more intriguing part of all this is who will have their draft stock plummet.
Or who comes from off the radar.
Who
is not on this list who could be on it. To me, it's Sam Leavitt at Arizona State.
Yeah.
And what he was able to do last season, like Arizona State brought back a ton of talent.
Sure. They got a good head coach.
Another season with Kenny Dillingham as the head coach. Arizona State is the favorite to win the Big 12 again. To me, it is certainly very, very intriguing on their prospects to get back to the playoff and him continue to elevate himself. One other thing that I thought was interesting in terms of local interest, Jermod McCoy, Tennessee corner on this list, Dan Brugler's number 11 overall pick.
I like it.
Going to the Rams on their first via the Falcons, which, of course, the Falcons traded to get James Pierce.
I know it's hard when, you've got guys that, you were rooting for and go someplace different. But I do think he's got a bright future in terms of what he can do in this league. He just got to stay healthy.
Coming up, we'll catch up on some Vols football, some Tennessee athletics with the voice of the Vols, the VOTV. Mike Keith, who will be in town today for the Big Orange Caravan. Of course, you'll hear 3HL out there at Geodis Park later today. We'll catch up with the voice of the Vols, Mike Keith, coming up next. RKW is brewed by Scooter's Coffee on 104.5 The Zone as Hour 4 continues on this beautiful Wednesday in the Music City. Alongside Kayla Anderson, I'm Will Bowling. No Ramon today, but we do have his broadcast partner on the Vol Network, the voice of the Vols, the man known affectionately on this show sometimes as Mike K. in Franklin. Of course, I'm talking about the voice of the Vols, Mike Keith, who joins us today. Mike, what's going on? How are you, sir?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. So, Big Orange Caravan today. You guys bringing this show on the road in Memphis yesterday, coming to Nashville at Geodis Park today, Mike. Just how excited are you for this event, to see a lot of Vols fans and to be back home as well as this event continues?
I'm really excited, Will. I think last night in Memphis was a great reminder of what Tennessee is. And, you know, you think about it, you're over 6 hours from Neyland Stadium. And last night, the Memphis Botanic Gardens packed with Vol fans, the biggest crowd in years, and lines and lines and lines to see Kim Caldwell and Josh Heupel and Rick Barnes. And Danny White got an incredible standing ovation. And, I think people just really feel good about what's happening with the entire program, with the entire university. And it's so driven home when you go that far from Knoxville and you have the opportunity to see the overall enthusiasm, like in Knoxville, show up that way in Memphis. And that's what we expect to see tonight at Geodis Park with what is an event that was the first one to sell out really, really fast. And obviously these coaches have a lot to talk about right now. Talent acquisition continues to be a very big topic, and we'll see if it's as immediate a topic as it was last night, because we had announcements coming right up until we went on stage in Memphis.
Yeah.
It's like, so we can talk about this. So we, and they do very well together. Josh and Kim and Rick have been together now for a full year. They have a good rapport. And pretty much all I have to do is direct traffic. So it's an easy obligation for me.
I love it. Voice of the Vols, Mike Keith with us. And Mike, I think for any of us who even have just gone to a Tennessee game or even watched it, you can feel the momentum on that campus and in that city right now for what Tennessee athletics as a brand is at the Southeastern Conference, at the top of the Southeastern Conference. For you just being there, boots on the ground, day to day, and getting to talk with coaches and talk with athletic staff, Mike, what have you noticed? What did you maybe learn about just how good things are? I know it's kind of an abstract question maybe that's hard to put your finger on, but what has that been like, seeing it every day and just how good things are in Knoxville at the moment?
Well, I felt the momentum from afar. And when I would go to different events like you do and like others who are listening right now do, you feel that sort of momentum. When I got on campus on January the 13th and had the opportunity to spend time with a variety of people, whether it be athletic staff, people in the College of Communications, people from what they call the Tower, who would be the chancellor and the president's office, and, just people in different places throughout the campus, there's a real momentum. And that's very real. You feel it. You feel it through the student body and how much excitement there is. Right now on campus, one of the most wonderful things is around supper time, a lot of the students who are graduating in a few weeks are out taking pictures all over campus, whether that be by the arena, Ayers Hall, Neyland Stadium, whatever. And it's amazing how many of them have on some sort of athletic apparel to get one of their pictures. They've got a football jersey or a Zakai Ziegler jersey or something related to Lady Vols softball, maybe a Carlin Pickens jersey or something related to baseball and the national champions. I mean, it has so enhanced the college experience of this group who have been there the last 4 years. And it will be part of them forever. I mean, you go to school to go to school. You're looking to get a degree. You got to get a job. You're setting your life. You get that. But when you go to college and you go to a place like Tennessee and they've got it going and you're doing something all the time related to athletics and making those memories, it truly does factor into the momentum of the entire university, and that's what's happening right now.
Mike Keith, the voice of the Vols, kind enough to take some time out of his busy schedule this morning and talk Vols. Mike, spring practice just finished up, and we all know the headlines with Nico Iamaleava, but I want to focus on the future with this quarterback's room. And no matter what happens and, whatever is made official moving forward, what gives you hope that Josh Heupel is the right guy to develop whatever quarterback is going to be the starter this season?
2 words, Hendon Hooker.
Yeah, right.
I mean, Hendon Hooker is a guy who does not win the job at Tennessee in his first spring. People forget about Hendon. Hendon came to play for Jeremy Pruitt. And then he stayed when all the stuff went down to play for Josh Heupel. Well, he goes out that spring, Kayla, and Joe Milton clearly beats him out. They bring in Joe Milton, and Joe Milton clearly beats him out because he's tentative. All he does is take the check down throw. He won't embrace what Josh wants him to do. Well, then Joe struggles. Joe has an injury. Hendon gets to play, and suddenly all of the work that Josh Heupel had done with Hendon Hooker starts to take flight. And you see the development. And then coming back for the second year, we know what he did. Hendon became, one of the best in the country prior to his injury, might have won the Heisman Trophy. And so that's the type of thing, whether you're saying it's George McIntyre who becomes the starter as a freshman, or it's Jake Merklinger who becomes the starter as a redshirt freshman, or it's Joey Aguilar who comes in after spending the spring at UCLA and he wins the job. My confidence is Josh Heupel when it comes to quarterbacks, and it goes back to Hendon Hooker because, a lot of times we retrofit history in our minds. Well, why did Hendon not start immediately? And well, he got beat out.
Right.
Anybody who was at practice was telling you Joe Milton was more impressive, but through the coaching, through the development, through all of the work that Josh did, Hendon became what Hendon is now, and that's an NFL quarterback. Oh, by the way, Joe Milton's an NFL quarterback. Hello?
Yeah,
I mean, so nobody at one point certainly expected that in Joe Milton's tenure. Joe Milton got traded this spring for a higher draft pick than what he was coming out of Tennessee. So long answer, but that's how I feel about Josh. Whomever goes out there first against Syracuse in Atlanta on August the 30th, I trust that they'll be ready to play because of the head coach and what he does with quarterbacks.
Mike, when it comes to this team, there's also a lot of young players that will probably be expected to contribute right away. Sure. During spring camp, anybody in particular or even position-wise that you're excited about in terms of what they can offer?
Yeah, very much so. I'm really excited about this freshman class. 23 of the 25 practiced, and you can already see that Ethan Utley's going to play in the defensive line. Isaiah Campbell's going to play in the defensive line. We've got several guys that are going to play in the secondary. Redmond's going to play in the secondary. Really excited about him. Obviously, too, at wide receiver, Travis Smith, Rodarius Jackson. Joakim Dotson wasn't there, but I think he'll be in the mix. I think the receiving core is going to be better than what people think based on the fact that I think these true freshmen are going to be expected to play. And that's a good thing. I mean, it's like, hey, let's go. You're going to have to play. This staff is having to come in with the idea that a lot of these kids are going to play. And what we see in the last 2 recruiting classes, they've got a lot more SEC top-level looking dudes than what they've had or what they had when Josh Heupel arrived. So from that standpoint, I think you feel good about your talent, but you're unproven. Going to be some depth situations. David Sanders at tackle is going to be a big situation because with Larry Johnson's departure, he's going to have to play. That's just it. But if you've recruited well, you're ready for this, and they feel like they've recruited well, and they certainly look like it.
Voice of the Vols, Mike Keith, is our guest this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Mike, getting to spend time around Rick Barnes and Tennessee basketball, I imagine, is just a blast this time of year. And I know for you and for me and for so many people listening to us, it's always great when you get transfers, you get guys in, and anytime someone puts on the orange, Vols fans are going to cheer for them. It's a little extra special when it's a kid from Tennessee and even East Tennessee, the way Greenville's Jacoby Gillespie is going to be for this Tennessee basketball team. Mike, between Nate Ament, I feel like Rick Barnes is gushing over some of his new players in a way that he rarely does. Mike, it's clear he loves the potential that this team could have next season.
We had two really big targets, and he stuck with Nate Ament through the whole process when people were like, he's going to Duke.
Yeah.
Everybody knows he's going to Duke. Everybody goes to Duke. He's the number 2 player in the country. He would be the highest rated player Tennessee ever got. So they're not going to get him. And Rick Barnes stuck with it, put all of his chips in the middle, literally. I mean, he said, this transforms us. Even if he's a one and done, he's got a chance to be that freshman who takes you to a completely different level. So to get Nate Ament and then to get Jacoby Gillespie, who he really wanted at the point. And this is a guy who has the really good scoring capability. He gives you good offense, good defense, good everything at the point. You added some bulk. I mean, Jalen Carey is a huge pickup, literally and figuratively, for Tennessee from the standpoint that they need a body. They're going to get JP Estrella back on the post, and JP can score down low, which is a big help. Felix Akpara is another body who can bang, and he can certainly do some things on the interior. But to get Carey, who's that enforcer, the good rebounder, does have offensive skills, and then to add Gillespie and obviously Ament, they feel very good about the makeup of this basketball team. And, adding Amari Abram from Louisiana Tech yesterday, another long player who can shoot the three, I think they're going to be better offensively than what they've been probably in recent years in terms of the number of weapons who can put the ball in the basket and the different ways they can do it, because Ament is not a post player. He's 6'9", but he plays facing the basket and can do things at the top of the key. He can handle the basketball. I mean, he's going to give him a completely different element.
Mike Keith, the voice of the Vols, joining us this morning. Mike, in terms of what Tennessee has built with the athletic program in general, what I see that's impressive in this day and age with NIL and transfer portal is the Vols, no matter what team it is, they've built the identity of that team and that coach and what they're expecting. So you could add any transfer portal guy you'd want or gal because of money. But how impressive is it that Tennessee is they've put their culture out there of what they want and they're particular on what they go and get?
I'm not going to take away, Kayla, from what Rick Barnes said about Nate Ament last night in Memphis, because I know we're going to talk about it tonight. I promise you the host is going to bring it up, because I think when you get the number 2 basketball player in the country, that's probably a big topic. I'll just say this. He's a culture fit. That's the whole thing about why Rick Barnes wanted this player, is not just because he's a kid that can really play. It's because he's a culture fit. And if you think about what Tennessee's done over the last 4 years, they've won 109 games. That's 27 wins a year. They've won 51 SEC games. That's an average of going 13-5 a year. They've made the Sweet 16 3 straight years, and the last 2 years they've made the Elite 8. They've won 2 SEC championships. So whatever his formula is, I'm down with that. And the thing is too, Rick will take a 3-star. He's not afraid. If he sees what he wants, it's not all about ratings. And the fact that, you get the number 2 player in this class, I mean, that's great. and I'm for it. But he's also about Troy Henderson, who is the AAU teammate of Nate Ament, and is somebody, he was a 3-star, but it's like, oh, he fits us perfectly. We take him. Right. So to your point, I think that's what you're trying to get to. And Josh is now able to do it with Tennessee football because, oh, by the way, this is year 5. You know, it's how you survive the quarterback saga. It's because you've got a program now. It's what Kim Caldwell's building. It's what Tony Vitello has built in baseball is, you know, you're not having to change coaches every year. That was killing Tennessee in sports, in particular men's basketball and football, is you're changing coaches every 2, 3, 4 years. You don't have anything in place. And having the stability that they have right now gives them the chance. People talk about culture, but culture comes over time. And now they've had some time.
Mike, on the way out, did your life flash before your eyes standing in the box for a Carlin Pickens fastball the way mine would? I love some of the social media stuff, and I love the Mike Keith show and all the stuff that's coming out. But what was that like watching maybe the best pitcher in college softball from up close like that?
It was so cool. I mean, it was so cool. I'm just glad they didn't ask me to put the gear on and catch her.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, I would have done it.
Yeah.
I absolutely. Now, she would have crushed me. She's still, it's funny about Carlin is her dad still catches her.
Oh, wow.
Jeez.
Wow.
And, you know, for those who don't know, so when you're catching somebody who's just throwing, generally you sit on a bucket and because that makes it easier on your legs and yada, yada, yada. Well, she apparently knocks her dad off the bucket like regularly. But, yeah, I'd have done it. I'd have wanted to see it because just standing there, it was amazing to see, you know, what it's like because you see a 90-mile-an-hour fastball and it's a different arc because the ball is coming, to just keep it simple, it's sort of coming downhill based on the angle of the pitcher. Well, with a softball pitcher, and I didn't play fast pitch softball, obviously, so it's interesting to see that ball going up.
Right.
And I mean, it is moving. And she does it with such ease. She's a lot of fun, too. I don't want to ruin something for her, but she was doing something inside the Anderson Training Center yesterday. She's up for all kinds of things to have fun with all of it. And she's really a cool person. Obviously, she's probably the best player in the country, maybe our national player of the year. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, to see the fastest fastball ever thrown in softball up close was very, very cool.
It's the coolest thing, Mike, as you know, just walking around that facility. And it's just a who's who, especially the way it is right now, of just, there's National Player of the Year. There's one of the best transfer portal point guards. There's a 5-star who might be, Team USA basketball type in the future. I know it's got to be cool. Big Orange Caravan today at Geodis Park. 3HL, of course, out there live. Mike, we're looking forward to listening and hearing more from all these coaches. Appreciate the time as always, Mike. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks for having me on. I'll see everybody out there tonight. Go Vols.
I love it. Go Vols. There's Mike Keith with us here this morning as the Big Orange Caravan comes to the Music City. No, if you don't know the name Carlin Pickens, a lot of people get into the, obviously NCAA softball stuff once the tournament comes. Like, she's going to be the type that becomes a sensation.
It's impressive.
If she isn't already. She's awesome.
Mm-hmm. And you always need that solid number 1 pitcher if you're going to make it far.
No doubt.
In the NCAA tournament.
Some breaking news from Nashville SC this morning. We can get to that on the way out. Headlines of the NFL coming through. We'll catch up on everything you missed if you are sleeping in this morning, as we always do at the end of the show next.
Two Rivers Ford announces employee pricing for everyone. Every tradesman, every dad, every rising star. You pay what we pay. Two Rivers Ford. Locally owned. American made.
RKW is brewed by Scooter's Coffee as we wrap up the show. Inky Johnson coming up in just a moment for a little bit of midweek motivation. Back with you tomorrow morning, of course, 6 to 10 with the Buck Rising Show on deck. News from Nashville Soccer Club this morning, who has promoted general manager Mike Jacobs to president of soccer operations and GM, extending his contract through 2028. Nashville SC Vice Chairman Ian Ayre making that announcement, saying, I know firsthand how difficult building a roster, buying and selling players, and creating a balance in this area can be for any sports teams, often under pressure and typically with a lot of challenges and differing opinions. Mike has done an outstanding job navigating those challenges and fully deserves this additional recognition and promotion. Nashville off to its best 10-game start in club history in MLS, tying its previous best start with 16 points through 10 games and coming off of a touchdown at extra point.
Yes,
over
big game.
Chicago Fire, 7-2 on Saturday.
That was wild in terms of, and I know you didn't get to watch anything, in person, but just
unfortunately,
I know, right? American Airlines. But watching, just that play out. And 7 goals, if any of you guys don't really know soccer, that is really hard to do at that level. And, Will, there's another big match coming up this weekend for them.
1:45, Nashville and Atlanta, Saturday afternoon. Atlanta is off to its worst 10-game start in club history, despite the fact that their front four costs $50 million of transfer fees. Emmanuel Latteloth, their $22 million striker, has been good. Everyone else has not really hit the ground running quite yet. So it is a very big one. You got a big opportunity to kind of stick it to your rival a little bit, which is always fun, but especially when you and Atlanta are going in opposite directions. So anytime you play Mercedes-Benz Stadium, it's tough. That is a really tough place to play. And in MLS, the home team has a big advantage, just the way the league is and the way the travel is. But big opportunity Saturday, yeah.
You got to love it when your top 2 players are in good form right now, with Sam Surridge 4 goals on Saturday, player of the match day, and Hani Mukhtar 2 goals and an assist.
That's right.
Love it.
Hani with more goals and assists through 10 games than any other year in his career.
Good for Hani. Dude, the guy doesn't slow down.
He does not. He's got 7 goal contributions in 10 games, his most through 10 games ever, and he won MVP a couple years ago. So
it's impressive. Did you see my hat today?
Yeah, you got the U.S. soccer hat. I know, I like it.
Sporting some soccer today.
I like it. Absolutely. It was a rematch of the old U.S. soccer head coach and his assistant over the weekend as B.J. Callahan beat his old boss.
Yep.
In Greg Berhalter, 7-2 on Saturday. So well-deserved for Mike Jacobs. We'll probably get him on the show coming up here the next couple days and soon as the boys in gold continue through the first third of their season just about this weekend in Game 11. So looking forward to that. Fifth-year options coming in the NFL. Really no surprises so far. Just a couple of minor headlines. The Falcons will pick up the option on fifth-year wide receiver Drake London. No surprise. With a washed-up Kirk Cousins, nearly had 1,300 yards last year.
I mean, that's pretty good, right? And we needed to see that big leap from London when it came to that, because there were some mixed reviews, like initially when he was drafted in the production right away, but not too bad. And you always need a wide receiver.
No doubt. Jags not picking up fifth-year option on linebacker Devin Lloyd, now set to hit free agency in 2026. Lloyd, maybe one of the more challenging decisions in terms of these options. Had over 110 tackles last season, 2 sacks, 1 pick, and 4 pass deflections. So a guy the Jags will take a risk on and let him prove himself going into the final year of his contract. We are out of time because Inky Johnson brings us midweek motivation every Wednesday at the end of the show. The Buck Rising Show has you covered up next. We're back at it tomorrow at 6, and here is Inky to wrap up the show.
My daughter, she's a very respectful young lady. Like, she goes somewhere, she gonna say please to people, yes, please, or thank you. Like, she's a very respectful, just young lady, right? And she said to me and my wife the other day, like, people don't always, like, say thank you, or when you do something for people don't always respond. Like, when you say certain things and you're being respectful, people don't always do that. And we had to tell her in life, like, You do things and you say things and you guide yourself the way you guide yourself, and you handle situations and circumstances and address people and do things because that's who you are.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Not because what other people do, what other people think, how other people respond. You do and you treat people a certain way because that's who you are as an individual, and that's what you subscribe to in terms of your thought process, and that's how you're being raised. It's not predicated upon what somebody else may do, say, think, or how they may respond. I'm going to treat you a certain way because this is what I'm guided by. This is how I operate. This is how I live my life. I'm not going to do things because it's what another individual may think, it's what somebody else may expect. No, I'm going to do what I've been raised to do. I'm going to act how I've been raised and cultivated to act. Like, I'm going to do things in such a fashion because this is what I stand on, this is what I'm guided by, and this is what I believe in.